Green scene.
Hello and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 10th of February, 2019. I'm your host, Jan Terrain. Join me today, Zachary Burgess.
Hello.
And Robert Kemp.
Hello.
He eventually settled into that hello.
I suppose you don't normally get a chance to settle into a greeting, do you? You're often
No.
More often than not you're
Caught
blindsided
by surprise.
by it. Yeah.
Because you were not expecting to be greeting people.
Well, no, it's more that like
You have to greet people back more than you
I
intentionally
get-
greet people, probably. I'd say on average.
I don't know, like how often do you have the circumstance where you're walking towards someone for long enough that you're
Settling.
prepared? Yeah, you're settled for a greeting.
I actually find that more anxious making than just being surprised because like you're walking towards them and you're like, now I'm overthinking
What do I do?
the
Yeah,
saying hello part.
I've waved hello, but now there's like about a minute of walking distance.
And
This is
then
awkward. Do I keep
when I get-
staring at them for the entire 60
Exactly.
seconds?
Do I look away and then look back at them as I approach them? Or do I just lock eyes with them for the entire length of the walk?
Or do I pretend to be disinterested the entire time and be like, "Oh, it's you."
Oh, it's you.
Oh,
Didn't see you there, except I did, and so did you.
and we both know that I did,
Yeah.
but I can't admit that. We needed some slow guitar, or maybe some slow piano, accompanied by some strings during my walk up to make it.
And not a tuba.
No, definitely not a tuba. Nothing says this greeting is a joke than a tuba.
So if you were scoring the film of your life, that's what you'd have you'd fill in that gap with some musical stings.
I think that may be slightly too dramatic.
It doesn't have to be dramatic music.
Yeah, but I think any music just kind of makes it more dramatic by default.
True.
Would you prefer to have some sort of like dart player or wrestler, like personal soundtrack intro or something every time you know you're approaching someone for a greeting, that you need some sort of playing to announce yourself.
So the Rocky theme plays every time you walk up to someone.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it's a bit like how every time Sam enters Clarissa's bedroom
God.
Oh yeah,
Good
classic.
references.
and it goes, please.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. All you need is a single strum of a guitar with a bit of vibrato.
I guess you want that single note from the end of the first Red Dead, right? The late title card. Dang. Maybe a echoey crow. That's the noise that it makes every time your presence is felt. You just hear.
Caw, caw. It's like a Sonic logo, like Intel Inside style.
Ding.
You wave to someone as you're walking up to them. It goes ding, 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 ding. Plug that gap.
I quite like the idea of like just a pathetic sounding crow in the background every time you're mentioned.
How are Sonic logos
guys, look.
going? Do you think
Sonic
Like,
logos.
Yeah, like
Oh,
Intel
sorry,
one.
not Sonic the Hedgehog logos. I was getting confused there.
Sonic, ironically, doesn't have a Sonic logo, although it probably could do. Sega's
You
got
kind
one,
of
I
has.
mean,
obviously.
Sega have had loads, haven't they? At the moment, they've just got, which sounds a little bit like one of the Intel ones,
Yeah.
actually.
I mean, Sonic kind of has, when on the classic Sonic style, like in Mania when they brought that back, him in the giant ring plays a small tune, and it's not, the same tune every time, but it's clearly a Sonic thing.
That used to be like the Sonic Team
Yeah, there's a little
intro thing.
dings.
Yeah.
It's still not that common. I guess McDonald's have got that whistling. That sort of counts.
Ubisoft have their single piano note. Don't they?
Except not always a piano any longer.
Yeah, they'll warp it in some way.
I guess anytime you're like a movie production house and you can have like a production, thing appear above the, before the film, then you can have a sound, and it extends to video games, right?
Yeah, but then often they make them silent now, don't they? And so like you don't often get bad robot.
It depends on what kind of film it is. If you're going for a dramatic opening, you can't be having that. That's when they have to be silent.
I'm trying to think who else has. Well, when I was playing 30-Second Hero, like I don't know who the company are, but it was like marvelous AQL or AQA or something like that, and it just sort of went marvelous. Marvelous.
Did we have one? We don't have one for Happy Salad. We just have a theme tune.
Yeah,
However,
we have a vague chord progression.
The Collision Software intro had really aggressive sounds.
Didn't really have a tune, just sounds.
Exactly. That's our Sonic logo.
Or even which one was it? Type or something that was just like ba-ba-ba-da.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It was that zoom hand drawn smiley face.
Drew a smiley face. Yeah. Sorry. Boom.
Because we had to make weird branding on our branding, turn it into something different slightly. Because we had the extremely loud one was one of Rob's as well, wasn't it? Because it also had the zoom zoom zoom.
Oh no, that was
quieter one.
That was the one we landed on for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah. Not the ridiculously loud car sound.
Yeah, there was one that was like, and then you had to put up with wingdings appearing.
Yeah,
very slowly.
That was the one on Glacial Spoon Race, wasn't it? Use that one.
Was it?
I think I upgraded them all with the settled on version, the one that had the software appearing with like a kind of gloopy effect, right? Not gloopy, but scanning effect. The wah effect, rather than the one wing ding at a time effect with the same ding sound effect.
How did that even turn into wingdings anyway?
That was just the font was missing.
I don't even know what font we picked for it to be missing.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was
Can't have been the
kind
Happy Salad
of
font because we always have that.
Well, we always have that.
Yep.
But the machines you tend to put it on don't.
Horatio D medium.
Horatio D med, yeah.
I wonder if you can get Horatio on like Google Fonts or something. Probably.
Something pretty similar, I bet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's always some.
Where did that even come from? Are we legally using that font?
Oh, well, it came with Windows, so I don't think it was.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, I think
But
so.
not like any other version.
Yeah,
of Windows.
that's what I mean. It's like.
Well, I don't think we wouldn't have downloaded it off the internet because I don't think we even knew how to get fonts off the internet.
Installing fonts would have been a pain. Yeah.
Yeah. It must have come.
It might have come from like a CD at some point because there were occasionally fonts on some CDs.
Oh, yeah, that might have been it. Actually. You're right. I kind of forget the old days of weird demo discs.
Yeah, really weird though it is. Not even just games, just things.
I still like that font we chose. Like it's an Art Deco look, isn't it? With the round O's that are perfectly round. It's quite unusual.
A lot of the angles and any of the bends are sort of done to a circular arc, aren't they?
Yeah,
rather than
perfectly
an
elliptical
arc. It's nice. It's a nice look. I don't think we need to change our branding. And I don't think
For all the places that it's used.
I don't think we want to go through the hassle of changing our branding.
For all the places it's used. About 3 JPEGs.
Hey, and all the I don't know, the video.
All the video
stamps.
Yeah. Exactly. Consistent
That's
branding.
like one JPEG.
Animated.
I guess.
It's actually not a JPEG. It's like a.
Well, obviously it's not
like
a JPEG. You wouldn't use a JPEG. I mean, what do you do?
It's like a vectored font in Premiere. But
what else did you get off demo discs or random discs that came with
Quake
magazines
mods.
and things? Or
Killer 90, the best Quake mod.
where did Killer 90 come from? Was that a PC Gamer disc or something.
Yeah, it
or
was
PC
definitely
Zone disc.
something, or PC format might have
Yeah, it
been.
might have been.
Because I'm pretty sure they would put out like random discs of like,
What
here's
was
all
the
best mods.
point?
Yeah,
What was the deal with PC format? I can't remember. It was like not a games, but it had
games in it. Yeah, something
But-
like that.
It was like, I don't know, but it wasn't like Computer World or whatever, or Computer Shopper or something. It was somewhere in between. The format was similar to like a PC Gamer, but it was more about like,
Computer Shopper put out those like 200 free programs or
Yep.
something discs.
oh yeah, they would ship with floppies. Computer Shopper, wouldn't they? Like ages ago.
Well, sure, most of these would have
Mm.
had floppies at some point, like Amiga Power.
That's slightly different. Maybe you're going to get CDs for a year. Not for very long, anyway. At best.
Yeah, I don't know that they ever did for like some of the Amiga 1000 series or whatever actually did have CD drives at
Yeah.
one point. 2000 maybe. I forget. It was when Commodore was dying anyway. I was reminded the other day that they actually made the IBM made a PC or something that had a Mega Drive built in or something like that, so you could just run Mega Drive games but it wasn't exactly like running from your PC. It was like a hard switch. The hardware was just in the same box, and you could flip a switch and go, I'm playing my Mega Drive now. Because PCs still couldn't play games, I guess, then. Not as good. Didn't have the dedicated hardware. Weird times. Also had, like, I don't know, I'm pretty sure we played, like, was it the Wipeout 2092 or whatever, his demo that I ended up making sure that disc was kept good, because that demo was something I always went back to for some reason.
Because 2097 was great.
And the PC version was incredibly hard to find. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it ever really got a decent release in this country.
Well, there's several games that we played on demo disc that we're like, what even happened to these games? Because that was the age of weird games not even coming out.
Like Tactics.
Yeah, like Tactics. The only reason that, like, we even still have Civil Snowbike is because I literally bought that and it was a shareware.
Yeah.
It was like, Jesus Christ. And that was on a CD as well. That was actually quite an advanced shareware, I guess, for the time. They actually made CDs and shipped it. I was like, holy crap. Still have that, and it still works.
Have you still got Return Fire anywhere?
I have a version of Return Fire, I think.
It's probably not.
You can get that on, like,
I bet it's
Good Old
not our
Games.
original copy.
No, I don't think it's the original one that we had.
Yeah. No, what's the Flight of the Bumblebee music? I can't remember. It's something that just goes.
Yeah, basically.
Yep, basically that.
And Valkyrieing around in the helicopter. I could never get to grips with the helicopter in that game. Just always ended up going with the missile thing.
Yes,
because it could just blow up turrets nice and easy.
That was like Hall of the Mountain King, wasn't it? Dun, 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 dun.
That it, or did the tank get that?
I think the tank got like Mars, didn't it?
That would make some sense.
Or something like that.
Wah, wah. I just remember all of that music being in a single giant WAV file that you could attempt to load in Windows on its own.
Right.
You'd be sitting there a long time for it to try and figure it out.
Yeah, everyone likes single giant sound files. Like Dungeon Keeper 2. All the voice audio tracks in one giant file. Even ones that you've never heard because there were some like really obscure secret levels that I never got to.
Settlers 2 demo.
Yep.
Which I remember playing for ages because we couldn't figure out how to make it progress.
Yeah, because we were bad.
Yeah. So what do we do? I don't know. I built this really nice town and there's birds and trees and I'm just making as many roads as I can. Fill the map with roads.
That kind of was the fun part anyway.
I guess, yeah.
I don't remember if that... Because I actually had Settlers 2, but I don't remember whether that must have been floppies, but I don't remember them.
Yeah, like your Micro Machines 2.
Yeah, Micro Machines 2, I remember those.
On
Because I've seen them quite recently, in fact.
Oh, really?
Well, because you gave them to me quite recently, because they were here for some reason.
Oh, yeah, I found them in the box, didn't I? Yeah. Not that long ago. Our old games.
See them on our YouTube channel.
Yeah. Some of them, anyway. It's still quite a back catalogue to get through once we're done with Half-Life.
Have you got through Half-Life yet?
Yes, but the video's not up.
Okay, cool.
We'll get that plug out of the way. Next week's video.
What did you think overall? Like, so, I saw you guys bitching about it quite a bit while playing it, which is fair enough. But it's pretty old.
I don't know. It's weird. It's like I don't think it quite. I mean, yeah, it's like it shouldn't be too harsh because 1998, right? But a lot of this stuff hadn't really evolved. Some of this stuff hadn't really been done before.
A lot of it had never been done. Some of the stuff that seemed really clunky, is like in terms of like set pieces, there just weren't any set pieces like that before, really.
Yeah, it hadn't really been attempted, and so it's hard to look back at it now, and it hasn't held up. I don't think particularly
not now.
Well
at this point, it's a bit silly.
Yeah, there are certain stuff where it's just like, sorry, what and what.
I did think quite a bit of the glitchy Z fighting and stuff definitely didn't used to be there. Like, there's definitely like modern technology.
Yeah, something maybe about this particular version of it, the version that's available on Steam right now, probably wasn't there. I mean, I don't think I basically didn't remember a good half of that game properly.
And then I remembered most of it, but forgot how long any part of it was. Some parts were longer than I thought.
It's long. I told you guys it was long.
and then forgot some of it is actually an opposing force. And so,
yeah.
So that happened. It's like prepared to be slightly disappointed about some plot points Zach might have mentioned earlier in the video series.
Well, that's in the video that's up at the moment, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's not too bad.
We go to Z.
There's definitely bits of Forget About Freeman that I'd forgotten about, ironically.
You did what you were told. It's fine.
Also, there's a lot of those big, bad alien soldiers in that level. I hadn't actually remembered. The ones with the bees.
Those are.
Yeah, there's freaking tons of them. Guys were running out of grenades.
That one room at the start with the Barney gun. The gun that just has to mow down Barney. Right? Let's get him out of the way first. Then...
I think I remember making the mistake of saving the Egon gun and then never using it. You guys did the right thing of just blast them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, the elephant cry.
I remember having trouble with the teleport puzzle or whatever, and you guys just go straight through it because it's not even that hard apart from the jumping and falling to
we went straight through it, but I'm like, there was definitely one bit where there was a totally separate teleporter that we didn't go in. That's really the thing that happens several times through that whole series. It's just like there's two different ways you can go, and we just happen to go the right one. Except maybe they're both the right one because I think most of the routes just link back up anyway.
I think they do. Yeah, I don't think you can go far off track in that game. Really, I think
no. There's very clearly one route I can remember that we specifically didn't take, and we went down the other path and then just kept going. I think.
Well, there was that whole bit with the snark nests.
Yeah.
Where it was just we looked down one of the corridors and it goes into an underground car park. But what about this tube over here? And it's like, oh well, I guess this tube just goes where we need to go. So we'll never know what was down the other way.
I remembered that the tube was the right way when I was watching it, but then I was like, well, where does the other way go? But probably nowhere.
Or it just links back up to the same place.
Yeah, probably
into the tube somehow.
Series of tube. It was more fun watching Zach playing it than if I think I was attempting it. Is the thing. It's like I don't think I would have wanted to have been in Zach's seat for that series
to actually play it. Yeah.
There's definitely some times where I wouldn't have quite so overzealously hit the reload button, but there you go.
I still think there's parts of Half-Life 1 or just I don't know. Like Half-Life 2 is a much more refined game and is probably much more fun to play now, but there's bits of I still kind of prefer Half-Life 1 somehow.
Yeah, I don't know. When I think back to Half-Life 2, I remember that its segments being longer, but not necessarily in a good way. Like, some of the driving bits would go on for longer, the boat bit would go on for longer.
The boat bit is quite long. Then,
yeah, just
the airboat bit, yeah.
And so while they are definitely, different bits to the first game for sure, I'm not 100% sure that they should have kept them as long as they did. But
I think the graphics are almost more jarring now because they're closer to modern graphics. They're like more like the eve of modern graphics rather than just 90s graphics.
Oh, what you reckon? Half-Life 2 is sort of entering its own uncanny valley of
I think so because it's like
what graphics tech's like.
It's like engine-wise, it's okay, but texture-wise, it's bad and stuff like that.
It hasn't even got modern graphics has all moved to material-based rendering and things like that.
Well, yeah, that's really quite recent though.
Yeah, the last few years have definitely defined a new look to games.
Yes, that's true.
So,
which looks awesome. I love that material stuff.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's really impressive, but I kind of think it actually starts to take away from the individuality of games to some amount.
Right, because they all start looking.
Yeah, this to a certain
insane.
extent, this material-based rendering engine ends up making everything look very much almost like it came from the same place.
Yeah, but that already kind of started happening just based on the engine, not even like the rendering.
Yeah,
if it was Unreal Engine, you were like, oh, it's an Unreal Engine game.
Especially the Unreal Engine 3 days. The start of the Xbox 360 life cycle and things like that. When it's like, yep, that's clearly an Unreal game. Once they'd got past next gen filter and all that, it got a little better. But I don't know. You could look at Gears of War and Mass Effect and clearly see the parallels, right?
Yeah,
you could see it. So I'm kind of glad we're away from that. But yeah, I don't know. Perhaps it's just another argument for getting people to stylize their games more.
Maybe it's just an argument for people to actually fucking start making engines again.
It's too expensive though these days. That's the problem. It's like I don't know, like Square have dropped Luminous Engine, haven't they? Even though they built it for Final Fantasy 15, and it's not a terrible engine, but I'm pretty sure they're not using it anymore.
Yeah, but that's what Square does, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
they make stuff and only use it in one game and name it and everything, and then just like, no, we don't want that any longer because it's like fucking 10 years later by this point.
God knows what Crytek are really up to these days, with CryEngine and Lumberyard, the Amazon.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Version of it. Yeah,
I didn't hear much about that.
Well, it's supposedly powering Star Citizen.
Oh god,
maybe some part of Star Citizen.
That's really getting to the point of being vaporware at this point, isn't it? Like, come on.
Well, they do keep at least releasing the new, alpha builds of it.
Yeah,
so it's not entirely vaporware.
They turn up every now and then.
Runnable programs exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's vaporware maybe is just like putting all those individual parts into one package.
Yeah.
Like these individual parts work separately, but maybe not if you shove them all into one file.
Actually delivering seems to be on the end goal. They've got to get to somewhere where they can put a product out, or like a proper product, right?
Or do they? I don't know.
Or do they?
They've already sold it, basically.
Maybe secretly that's what they're doing, like some of their tech behind the scenes. They're just sort of giving to other companies. Selling.
I don't think anyone wants their terrible tech, to be honest. They've had problems with their engine, several problems. Whatever engine they're using, I don't remember. I think it's Unreal, isn't it? Or is it
Star Citizen?
Oh no, it is.
No, it's Lumberyard.
Yeah, it's not Crytek.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the problems when it changed to Lumberyard, and they had to shift everything over into it.
Yeah, because I think it might have been on Crytek before.
Yeah.
And then they moved to Lumberyard.
Which is why it never ran well.
True. Crytek engine has never been massively performant. Pretty in places, but not massively fast.
So what have we got in terms of actual news? Official news. Actual
news. All right, let's talk about games that I think don't use material-based rendering. Respawn put out a game.
It
came out of nowhere. Yeah.
Battle Royale.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Of course.
Is it free
to play, right? What's
it called? It's totally free to play.
Apex Legends. I went to look for news just now on Reddit, and this is all anyone is talking about.
Yeah, it's blown up big. It's hit that. They hit the 1 million mark in the first 24 hours or something, and have in the space of the first couple weeks have hit what is now considered to be the magic free-to-play mark of 10 million players.
They've hit
and
it.
It's done so super fast.
Yeah.
And has basically taken over Twitch.
Sweet.
It seems like a pretty big deal. Kip, I haven't played it myself yet. I do have it downloaded, but Kip has checked in and said, "Yep, this is the most fun I've had with a battle royale yet." And he's played quite a few of them, in fairness, because he's played the Counter-Strike one. He's a big fan of the COD one. He has dabbled in Fortnite, and wasn't hugely taken.
He likes
by
this
it.
better than the COD one.
He likes this better than the COD one at the moment. He says like the speed of it is what does it for him. Like it's Titan, so it's based in the Titanfall universe.
Okay.
But you don't have you're not in the pilot, whatever the suits the pilots have. You're not in those. So you don't have wall running. You don't have the crazy jumping.
Oh, okay.
But you do run as fast, and you do have knee slides, and you can still traverse like ropes and things like that, and swing and slide down the big. Well, yeah. what is it called? Zip lining. There we go. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So you can do all that stuff. So it all operates at that speed. But they've combined. So they've done the other direction of COD, whereas COD seems to have a similar lethality to Call of Duty normally. You've got slightly more health, but not that much more. They've sided with giving you quite a lot more health than you normally would in a Call of Duty and Titanfall game. So you're a little bit bullet spongy.
Oh, cool.
But they've gone that way, and they've also designed the entire game around 3-player squads. So that's the only way to play right now.
Right.
With the idea being that it's like if you lose an encounter, the chances of if you get knocked out, it's actually quite difficult for you to then be outright killed. So meaning that in theory, the squad stays together for longer. So if you win an encounter, you're probably going to have your whole squad, which is smart for keeping all the players engaged and making sure each firefight is a little bit fairer.
So what if you get killed? Can you respawn on your squad then?
No, you don't respawn. But when it's got one of those down but not out systems like most battle royales do.
Oh, I see.
So you're on the floor, but it takes. I think you take quite a fair amount of damage to be outright killed once you're in that state. And they also get one of the pickups is a knockdown shield. So if you do come under fire, you can activate a shield to protect yourself for a period of time as well. So you can optionally burn your knockdown shield to give your squad more time to get to you or to deal with the encounter before you get outright murdered. And it seems pretty smart. I've seen more. I've been watching a fair amount. Actually, surprisingly for me, I don't normally get into this whole watching games thing.
So the thing I've been hearing about from a couple of articles that I just glanced over, which actually is kind of exciting for me, is like they've put a lot of work into the communication system for when you're not on voice chat.
So there's
Everyone's crazy enthusiastic about this, but it's basically just a Battlefield spotting system, but slightly better.
But
it's
better.
like
right.
not
Well,
that
I
much
like the Battlefield.
Yeah, the Battlefield
system.
one was good. Obviously.
So
it's
better.
a definite,
even better.
It's a definite evolution in that if you line up your cursor directly on someone, which is rare because of the range and the speed, and you tap R1 on PlayStation, then you'll spot him, and it'll give the classic Battlefield marker and be like, we've seen a guy. However, you can use that like when you're not 100% about things. So if you look at a space on the map and you double tap, for instance, I think it then calls out to be, hey, gives the I think I saw something over in this general area.
So it's a bit fuzzier. Right.
Yeah, so it'll ping that area of the screen. But you can do that anyway, like whether you've seen the guy or not, you can start pinging at things to be
So I hope you don't get some random asshole in your team who just spams all over the place. Just
Sure.
to be a troll.
But there are ways you can then instruct that ping to be something else, like, hey, I'm pretty sure there's some stuff over here, or if you're looking at an object and you press it, it does the Left 4 Dead thing and calls out, hey, there's health here, and things like that. So you're it's attempting to.
Yeah, I guess Left 4 Dead is actually the better comparison.
Yeah,
because of the item spotting.
It's context aware in a lot of cases.
So you're saying pills here?
Yeah, basically.
Pills here.
Okay.
You were wrong about respawning, by the way. You can actually respawn.
Oh, is there a respawn?
If the rest of your team wins the fight, they can go to your corpse container thing, get your dog tags, and then take them to a respawn location.
Oh, wow.
Supposedly. I've never actually seen that happen.
No, I never saw that. That's cool.
And then you can camp out outside that, waiting for teams coming to.
Yeah,
course, theoretically.
A little bit. It'll be like, was it Planetside or something, where it's just like
count the swan tubes.
Yeah, exactly. Someone's driven an APC right up to the face and it's like, well, we've got to surround that thing.
Well, sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
I always like Respawn. They seem like the good guys from the Call of Duty lot.
Absolutely.
Titanfall 2 was a bit sad that didn't get played as much as it ought to have done, especially given it had.
We just get to be slightly disappointed that this isn't Titanfall 3.
Yeah, because
apparently they're not making that after all.
Yeah, so that was the follow-on from this, and it's like, yeah, we're really happy with Apex Legends, surprise, but but this does mean we haven't been working on Titanfall 3.
Well, I mean, they're doing that Star Wars game as well, and you can't ask everything of this team, can you?
No, exactly. It's like I didn't think they were big enough to have been working on 3 projects at once.
The reason they're not
working on Titanfall 3 first, right?
That was the one that... So there was the rumor about that they were working on Titanfall 3. You know, to the point where I think I've said on this podcast several times, where it's like, we know they're working on Titanfall 3. It's like, but it turns out no, they're just working on Titanfall-ish stuff.
I mean, it's clear what happened, and I don't think it's even that bad. Like, it's all about business, right? And they just said, okay, well, Titanfall 2 didn't work out that well in terms of the sales and stuff. So we know that Battle Royale is super popular. So if we'll get together with you to figure out how to use your awesome skills to make a super popular free-to-play Battle Royale and emulate the success of something like Fortnite, and then we'll give you the Star Wars license. You know, we'll do everything we can to support you to make something that actually makes money, which is, I think, what they'll probably do now. And then they can come around to Titanfall.
Well, there is some other news around this. It's like that Respawn have said that there is some other Titanfall project to be released this year. It's just specifically not Titanfall 3.
Right, yeah.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, so it's like, what is that?
I mean, it's sad when you've got a great game like Titanfall 2 and you're running out of people to play it with because no one's playing it. You know, they're not going to have this problem, hopefully. With
I'll admit, the community on PC during Titanfall 2's heyday was fairly small, even.
Yeah,
well, it was on Titanfall 1 even.
Titanfall 1 had a much bigger, on PC, it wasn't that great. Yeah. On Xbox, it had a fairly decent player base. But yeah, Titanfall 2 on PC had a fairly small player base, but they kept playing it for a long time. Right. It was a small number that stayed fairly consistent. So because I kept dropping in for quite a large number of months, just occasionally firing out and being like, oh yeah, this is still installed. This is fun. I'll give it a quick go. And it's and it was the same number every time. It's just all the same people are still playing this apparently. And it was badass. It was a great game. So I never really struggled with it, but this is bigger than anything they've done so far already. But I wonder how much money they're making out of it because they I think it's a cosmetic microtransaction system and not a lot else. So following the Fortnite model.
Obviously, the Titanfall thing they should release is just a patch to this game to put in Titanfall mode,
where put the Titans in
because they could have the more simplified, simpler movement for the more casual gaming. Because really, that's why this obviously isn't a Titanfall battle royale, is because the wall running, double jumping Titan mechanics was just way complicated for mass appeal.
And the thing is the jump kits works nicely because of the high lethality, right? So you could be running along the wall and get a kill while you were doing it. Whereas the bullet spongy nature doesn't make that quite such a tactic now.
I don't know if it was running along walls shooting was really important in the Titanfall anyway. It was more just a manoeuvring thing to get to places.
I guess. It was pretty effective at times. There were some of the maps in Titanfall 2 particularly.
Well, when they designed around it, basically.
Yeah, it's big, there's that one level which is basically just a series of ravines.
But yeah, they should clearly just make a patch for Apex Legends to be now with Titanfall mode, where it turns on all the wall running, jumping and Titans. I did see some people saying, obviously the way to do the Titans would just be make it when the ring gets to a certain small size and there's a certain number of squads left, that's when you suddenly get Titans. And it just turns into a Titan fight for a minute.
That would be pretty funny. But maybe you'd have had to have picked up a certain Titan beacon in your inventory.
Or you have a default one that then you can find one of the other types or whatever, or a different gun-equipped Titan for your drop if you survive to that point in the game.
I get the feeling that might be a huge balance issue. But
I don't think it would be. It wouldn't be any more bad than regular Titanfall, probably. And at least then everyone would be getting their title at the same time.
Yeah, true. It'd be like Last Titan Standing, mode,
Yeah,
though.
basically.
But, yeah.
Except then the pilots would also come out. You have a final death fight. Then you kind of have to have some kind of anti-Titan weapon, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to think about there.
But yeah, it could be possible to do that. But they're more worried about getting as many people in as possible, so keep it relatively simple to start with.
Yeah,
and they'll probably just put characters in because they have characters. So that'll be if there's going to be more patches to this game, that will be what will be coming, presumably.
I mean, yeah, they've sort of done a hero structure is the other interesting thing.
Yeah,
I guess about this is 8, I think, at the moment, distinct classes. So you do have to build your squad with some abilities in mind, like always have one of them being the healer lady.
Which naturally is the classic thing that sucks about team-based games.
Yeah, you gotta have a healer.
No one else picked healer. Well, fine. I guess I get to be a healer.
I'm gonna play as Link, I think she's called, but they went. It seems like they've gone a little bit crazy, at least with their characters. Like Wraith seems to run around like he does the anime run, right? He throws his arms behind him.
Don't think that matters to you.
It looks kind of funny.
All that matters is whether one of those classes has a jump kick melee.
Jump kick melee.
Because the only melee that I've actually seen has been the medic woman who just does this weird, like, double-handed punch stab thing. I'm not even sure what weapon, if she's literally just punching or whether she had like a scalpel or something, but it's just this weird double-handed one.
So I'm sure you can, but without.
Yeah, but without the fire.
Still, seems cool. I will probably play some of that and get back to you next episode.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Surprise. What else we got? What else is going on? We can stick with EA, I suppose, for a bit. They have backed down in Belgium.
Backed down on fighting the law.
Yeah. So Belgium ruled that their practices around basically FIFA Ultimate Team points.
Yeah, basically.
And that style of loot box system was gambling and therefore outlawed. And EA said, "Nah, man, we're still going to do this." And they did for a while. They seem to have got away with it for longer than I thought, but for whatever reason, they've now decided, nah, we probably shouldn't fight the law. The law will win. So they've taken out the ability to buy whatever the coinage is in FIFA Ultimate Team.
In Belgium.
In Belgium, yeah. They're still going to make mega bucks out of it everywhere else.
Yep. Or not the Netherlands, at least. Everywhere except Belgium and the Netherlands. Yeah. And I think one other place that I don't remember.
I can't remember, yeah. So there's that. What was the other thing? Oh, yeah, the Star Wars license.
There was a news report that apparently I think it was the CEO, maybe of Disney, or someone higher up in Disney anyway, said that basically they think EA is doing a good job with the Star Wars license.
Right.
Which is pretty hilarious, considering the 2/3 games that they've managed to put out.
It's pretty funny given the amount of like commentator backlash that's been happening on YouTube of late, of people saying like, "Hey, do you remember when LucasArts had the license and they put out like 13 games or something in the same amount of time EA have had it?"
And the thing about the quote from Disney is like the guy literally says, well, this is the exact quote, he pretty much literally says, "We don't know shit about making games, but EA seems to be doing okay." It's like, apparently you don't know shit about making games.
They're like, "Oh, my kids have Galaxy of Heroes on their phones and they seem to like it."
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that. And I think it's like Battlefront, for all its faults, hasn't actually done too badly money-wise. Like both of them. I think they've actually probably done all right. And ultimately that's what Disney cares about.
But don't they realise that it could have been so much better? That's the thing. It's like, doing all right is one thing, but it's fucking Star Wars. Star Wars shouldn't do all right.
Well, it's kind of the same with the sequels, isn't it? I mean, the first one was really good.
I mean, that's the natural YouTube comment to any video about this is like, Disney is fucking up actual Star Wars, EA is fucking up regular Star Wars. Of course they think they're doing all right.
They don't have the perspective of what makes good Star Wars.
Yeah, no one knows in current Disney, apparently. So yeah, there's that. And EA stocks have been all shitty recently, apparently.
Yeah, because what did they say? Because they they admitted that Battlefield 5's
was
7.8
terrible.
7.8 million copies sold or something.
Was insufficient.
Yeah, again,
as
they
always.
pulled a Square Enix and was like, "This hasn't met our expectations." Well, you didn't put your Battle Royale in it, that's why.
Well, yeah, that still hasn't come out.
Yeah.
If it even will at this point. Because, Apex Legends.
Oh, it will. They'll put it in Battlefield for sure. But I think they always said it was going to be around March time.
Yeah, they did always say that, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah. So that supposedly hasn't done so well. And, as a result of them coming out and saying that, the stock prices dropped significantly.
About goddamn time, really.
Well, this might be the time to buy EA stuff. I don't know.
I'm
no analyst.
It might be about time for fucking EA to shut down, for God's sake.
That's not going to happen.
Or get smaller, anyway.
Yeah.
Not that we want them to shut down even more of their sub-studios, but it would be nice. They need to shut them down and not buy anymore.
Definitely don't buy any studios, because we know you're going to kill them in a couple of years.
I can't see Anthem doing massively better than like Battlefield 5.
No, that's the other thing that's where people... It's weird because...
The hype around Anthem has been so...
killed.
Well, it's sort of weirdly middling. It's like some people are really high on it and some people are really about it. It's like it hasn't... I haven't really got a decent read.
That's the thing that people have been saying about Anthem versus Apex Legends at this point, is that like it's almost but not quite the reverse of the Titanfall situation, Titanfall versus Battlefield, where like they've done it again where they've released two of their games really close together and one of them's going to get shit on, except this time it's not the Titanfall team's one, it's the other one.
No, it's the other one.
I'm not 100% sure they're really in the same space, really. I don't know that Destiny...
but that's what we said about Battlefield and Titanfall, even though those are a lot closer.
Battlefield and Titanfall are definitely a hell of a lot closer than a Battle Royale and a Destiny spin-off. It's...
They're still shooters, though.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about Anthem? I played the demo last weekend.
That could be what you've been playing. We've run out of news now, haven't we?
No.
Well, there's a little bit more news, but... well, I guess there isn't really that much more news. Actually, looking at the list, it's like, I don't know what. Detective Pikachu 2 has been announced.
Great.
That's not even a game. That's a film.
It's not a game, it's a film. Yeah, the film, even though the first film hasn't come out yet.
Okay,
which I'm still really excited for, though. I think it's really cool.
Detective Deadpool.
Detective Deadpool, yeah.
Cool.
What else did we not cover? Oh, yeah, there's the whole Fortnite fully crossplay thing, and, accounts can now be merged, so that whole thing is now over.
Sony is eventually giving it up.
So, yeah.
Well, for some games, anyway, still.
Yeah, because they've allowed full crossplay in Rocket League as well now. So it's getting there. The whole account merging thing is interesting, because does that mean Sony are just like...
The whole account merging thing is probably going to suck for a lot of people who are like, suddenly... Because before they were like, I have to make a new account on the Switch because if I want to play Fortnite, so I don't get all my stuff. And now they've probably made a new account on the Switch, got a bunch of stuff on that account, and now you've got to merge these two accounts together, and suddenly, you have all this wasted effort of stuff you already got on both accounts.
Depends how the dupe system works in that game, I don't know.
Well, yeah. It even has one.
Yeah. I guess they would have thought about that and maybe like, if you've got dupes, we'll give you V-Bucks for it or something.
You would hope so.
Yeah. That's good news. I'm still holding out for like Rocket ID as a thing. It's like the cross-party stuff coming at Rocket League will be cool. The cross-play party stuff, but ultimately Rocket ID is where I want to be, because it's like I want all my stuff on all platforms. If I'm away from home and I've got my Switch,
not that you have Rocket League on the Switch or anything.
No, but I could.
You could, yes.
Exactly. That's why I haven't. Well, the primary reason I didn't pick it up while I was still traveling away from home fairly frequently.
It's not like you don't have other stuff to play on the Switch.
I've still got a lot of Smash Brothers still to play.
Yeah.
Did you know what I mean? It was just one of those, like, it would have been nice.
Yes. You forgot the last bit of news. The last bit of news, the Metro Exodus thing.
Oh, yeah, I thought we weren't talking about that. I thought you poo-pooed it before the cast.
No, I said we should talk about it.
Oh, okay.
I said the exact opposite of that.
I totally misread. Metro Exodus. This is an odd one.
Well, the game's
due out in like a week, or something like that, or this week, maybe. And it was available on Steam for pre-order. So people will have put down money on Steam for this game, and they've announced now, like in 0 hour, pretty much, that it's an Epic Game Store exclusive, which puts everyone in a slightly odd position. And it's like, so they have said that they are honouring people who have bought the game in some way, like, but I don't think they've really said whether that means it's going to be a refund or whether it's going to be they're just going to unlock the game on Epic Store and be like, here you go.
Well, it's probably that. I think they've said that like the physical versions that would have had a Steam code in are now just going to have an Epic code in. So if you've already pre-ordered the physical version, you're just going to get a different type of code.
Boy, yeah, that must be a pain in the ass if they already made a load of stock. But
well, it's only a code. It's not like it's a disc. Yeah. That'd be a lot more pain if you had to reprint discs for some reason.
Unless they just made all those codes still work. They knew all the codes anyway, I guess. So it's like.
I mean, the thing about this story is it's basically the exact same thing that happened with Satisfactory, except slightly worse, because Satisfactory was on Steam as well, but it hadn't got to the point of taking pre-orders yet.
Right.
It just had a page.
So no money changed hands.
Yeah. But it's still the same. You look at the comments, and it's basically the exact same things people were saying on the Satisfactory announcement about their Epic exclusivity, except slightly more so. Where people are like, you put it on Steam, you use Steam to advertise it, and now suddenly you've moved to Epic.
Yeah. So Valve have actually commented on this situation, flat out calling it unfair to all parties involved. Like, which I think is fair enough, actually. Like,
well, especially in this case more than Satisfactory, because the money once you actually start taking pre-orders.
I mean, it's. You could argue that it's not entirely unfair on the consumer, and except for they're not going to be able to play on their platform or distribution service of choice.
Yeah,
it's forcing them, if they've pre-ordered, to use the Epic Store. Even if maybe Steam have probably still taken their cut, right? Steam have probably still got the pre-order money.
I don't know about that. I wonder what would happen.
They must have, right? Because it was sold through Steam. It's like
sure, but there's like, well, I guess you have to wonder like how often those checks go through or whatever.
Yeah.
Have they been on Steam long enough to get the first check from Valve or whatever? Or the other way around, pay Valve however much.
Yeah. Oh, well, however that's working, Valve think it's unfair on them as well. And it's like, you were selling it here and now you're not. Like,
yeah.
What's the deal?
Well, I'm sure they'd like money.
Well, of course. Yeah, of course Steam want the money, but like it's just an odd position to be in.
Yes.
It's clearly a business move.
Well,
right?
yeah. I mean, just like Satisfactory, where it's just like, I mean, the Satisfactory devs said it specifically, where they're just like, yeah, well, we just got money out of this deal, which we're going to use to keep our studio running while we finish making this game.
Sure, yeah. I bet Epic, at this point, it would be hardly surprising if we learned that Epic actually paid quite a bit of money for this deal to go ahead.
I'm sure.
That's how exclusivity deals work, I guess.
Yep.
But it would have to have been significant for them to pull this at the last moment.
Maybe. Unless it turns out this isn't as much of a hassle as we think it might be.
Yeah, maybe.
If it actually is quite easy to just go, nope, and just turn it off on Steam.
Oh, I mean, I bet the button press is quite easy.
Yeah.
But just a strange one overall. I don't know that that's happened before, or at least not to this level.
No.
Not for like a AAA title.
Probably not.
Or AA. I don't know what you consider Metro.
I mean, probably not. Similar things might have happened, but like within Steam, like the Planetary Annihilation thing, where the thing that was going to be an expansion turned into a full game, even though it already had a store page for it. That was but that's like internal on Steam.
Yeah,
that was like a completely different launcher.
I don't think anyone really misses out particularly in that scenario.
The only other vaguely similar situation might have been like Mass Effect 2, where it was sold on Steam, but then got taken off Steam and put onto Origin, but you could still run it through on the Steam version. They still allowed you to. The files was still on Steam at somewhere. And
it was some time after, I guess the launch, so the initial sales spike would have died down, and so it's not all that meaningful.
And it still had its own internal like login system anyway, the stupid Cerberus network.
Oh yeah, forgot about that. Bio ID.
Yep.
BioWare code.
Cerberus network.
It's definitely fucked up.
I suppose the first Mass Effect games were before BioWare was officially bought by EA, is that right? They were still they were being published by EA, but they weren't.
Yeah, maybe.
But they weren't
Yeah.
outright owned at that point.
I think so. It happened around the Old Republic kind of development time, right?
Something like that.
So a lot of Metro fans are quite pissed.
Yeah.
And then there was the subsequent story, which I guess we don't need to talk about as much, but like supposedly, and this is possibly a problem with fucking Google Translate or whatever, but supposedly one of the devs said basically like, if the sales of Metro on PC are bad, we're not going to make it on PC any longer. Sort of like threatening, if you don't come over to Epic and buy our game just because it's on Epic, then don't expect to get a PC game in the future.
I think they have come back since then.
Yeah, well, the whole company has been like, don't listen to that guy.
Yeah, we're still supporting
that guy's crazy.
PC. Come on, yeah. Which would be madness because I think those first two Metro games were kind of PC centric. Yeah.
Yeah. But it will be a bit weird if Epic like try and get as many tentpole, supposedly, PC games over to their thing as possible, using all those Fortnite
100%
billion.
I think that's what they're doing.
Profit.
Yeah,
that's the plan, right? What else do they want to get?
I mean, it's always going to be an uphill struggle to get people to buy into another launcher, right? Like,
what if they try and get Cyberpunk or something like that exclusive? I don't know. I guess this is the
Projekt has their
war.
own thing though,
Oh yeah,
because they're tied into GOG.
Oh, I didn't know that. So, what is that? Post Witcher 3, anything's going to be GOG'd?
Oh, maybe and other stuff. It's not like an exclusive.
Right.
I think GOG is just like their first choice or whatever. Or do they run it? I think fucking CD Projekt might actually run GOG.
That would be interesting.
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
what are the big PC games that people buy ridiculous rigs to play that are coming?
Good question, actually. What is? Well, I mean, Anthem.
What
Like,
is-
anyone who
all the EA stuff, right?
Yeah.
But they have their thing, so you can't buy those. You got to think of things that aren't
Dirt Rally 2.
code
Right.
masters.
Right.
No.
Anyone who's super into their VR.
Yeah, is that what the graphics cards are for now? VR, random VR.
Well, and
stuff.
I suppose anyone who really gets serious about their games, right? So most of the Fortnite players must have pretty massive rigs.
Maybe
It's like Fortnite's not a hugely
Maybe.
demanding
No.
game, but it's like you know, it's scalable.
more
It's
frame
pretty-
rates.
It's pretty scalable. Yeah, you want those frames. It's like, you know, CS players don't need enormous rigs, but they need one to hold that 144 consistently and at a decent res.
I'm not really thinking of like competitive. I'm thinking of people with too much more money than sense that try and get the bestest graphics and get the
Like, I
4K
guess
screens
the
and
most,
stuff.
Like, hello.
the most recent thing that I can think of that would have been, high-end PC game would have been like Just Cause 4, right?
Yeah,
Right.
apparently that's pretty well. Then the PC version has pretty brutal performance anyway.
Yeah, you
supposedly.
need a good PC to run it, not necessarily because it looks real good.
Yeah. I don't know, like, you know, FF15, like that's the best version of that game is on PC.
Yeah, for
right?
sure. Yeah,
it's-
the best version of a lot of games is on PC.
exactly. Yeah,
But then who publishes Just Cause? That's Square, isn't
Square again. Yeah.
it? There's the Square games that look good, I guess. That's all we've got left, like Hitman 2 and all that. It's like those are really the most recent
Right.
Well, there's been
modern
some
games I can think of for PC.
there's been some stuff about, like, you know, Anthem supposedly not looking the part on the console. If you've played the PC version, you
Well,
then
sure.
go to the console version, you're just like, oh, right,
Like,
this doesn't
yeah,
quite
yeah.
hold up. Even on the X, apparently, it's not.
I don't think the
there.
Frostbite engine has ever worked on consoles fully yet. has
Oh, I
it?
don't know. Like, I remember when like Battlefield 3 and 4 were running in Frostbite on.
Yeah, but they weren't
on
still weren't
PlayStation.
comparable to the PC version of it.
They were pretty fine. It has to be said. Like,
Yeah, they were good, but they were still clearly worse.
I don't know if they were clearly worse. That's the thing. I do remember like Battlefield 4's campaign on a PS3 and coming away fairly impressed with what it was doing. Like, yeah, you might have lost some res, like, because we were running
Yeah.
it at full 1080, right? And it's like, so you might not have been able to deal with that on a PS3, but it was pretty impressive.
I was just the reason I'm asking is I think the ones that people buy these crazy graphics card rigs or whatever for, you could probably if you're Epic, you could probably tempt all of those over, right? The tentpole ones, and leave Steam as kind of tons of indie games.
Yeah, the indie zone.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're
Maybe.
hoping for more people to use the Unreal Engine again instead of like Unity, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, just speculating on what could happen with all of those Fortnite billions. You could probably shake up the market.
Do you hear about the thing about Axiom Verge?
Yeah.
That they've made that free on the Epic Store, which might be the thing to tempt me over. And be because Axiom Verge was always, I think, has been on my wish list for a long time, just because it's Metroid-y, right?
Yeah.
And it's a good Metroid game. But it wouldn't run on the Epic Store because it was supposedly missing some files called Steam. So they'd ported it over, but they'd done a bad job about it. They'd just taken all the Steam files out, and then the game didn't know how to run.
Yeah, that sounds like a lazy method.
Yeah. So the Steam forums actually came to the rescue and gave everyone the solution to be like, yeah, you need these files.
So it wasn't even like it was trying to look for like hooks in Steam or anything. It was just literally, like they copied the folder, then just did a search on the folder for anything named Steam and just deleted it.
I mean, I bet there was more to it than that, but yeah, it seems like they perhaps just missed some stuff. Like they thought, yeah, we've done it. We'll just clean some stuff up. This is clearly tested. I don't know. It's just weird. Just weird.
The expansion for Subnautica, speaking about things that were free on Epic's store, I guess Subnautica was. The expansion still did come out on Steam after we were talking about whether that was going to happen or not. And also, we were talking about whether I was going to play it. It turns out, even though we thought it would be a quick early access, it's not gonna. Like, it's come out on early access on Steam, and it's not due to come out really for a whole other year.
Oh, really? Okay, wow. So super early access.
Yeah. At least as early as the actual real game. So yeah, I guess I won't be playing that for quite a while.
No, that'd probably be nice for you to come back to it with a year after having a year off. In fairness,
or well, nearly 2 years, I suppose.
Yeah. That's news.
Indeed. It's time for what you've been playing. Should we start with Anthem then, Rob? If you've played a bit.
Yeah, why not? I delved into the demo last weekend, which is a small 3 mission, I think, ish chunk. Included and
so not really a chunk, I guess. The 3 missions. They may not be concurrent in the actual game.
May or may not. They do follow a flow, but it's hard to. It's like they've sort of, there's some vague language around it where they've described the missions might not actually play out in the same way in the final product, and that they may have crafted this a little bit for the demo.
Yeah.
But they are, they flow in the demo, though I didn't feel like I was missing anything, particularly. Yeah, there's some definite good in this. Like, there's something to it. I'd be lying if it just came away feeling like generic Destiny with flying suits, the generic Iron Man Destiny. It wasn't quite that. I mean, it shares a lot with Destiny. Let's not mess around here. It's got numbers flying off heads and loot that you pick up and upgrade, and guns and stats, and guns with rarer guns have weird extra perks that are somewhat randomized, and you have to manage all of that and things like that. But like, there's some smart stuff in there that I'd quite liked. Like, I was a bit worried that you'd be dealing with, like with all loot games, that you're dealing with the loot the entire time, right? You see a gun on the floor, you pick it up, and it's like, okay, now I'm gonna have to do a stat comparison in what I'm doing. And it's like, no, actually, it's quite like the game sort of basically emphasizes you just pick everything up, and then at the end of the mission, deal with it. Which
that's kind of what Destiny did, right?
Yeah, I think I ended up moving in that direction, but it was just like I haven't really sunk much time into Destiny, have I? So I just remember that from Borderlands being the thing. It's like, there's a gun. I've got to look at this.
Except in Borderlands, you eventually learned that you didn't have to, except for in chests.
Yeah.
Any guns that drop off enemies just don't
are going to be rubbish. Yeah.
Just shove that in your inventory to sell later.
So I don't know. It's got a fairly decent feel to it. Like, I was playing the PC version, and it feels punchy, and I like its style. and the that sort of audio design that we sort of got a taste of at the Game Awards kind of pervades the whole thing, and I really quite dig it, actually. Like, in the way it sounds specifically is quite nice. I don't know, the city perhaps wasn't quite as vibrant as it looked in that first glimpse we saw. It's not like there were people coming up to me and like doing, like, patting me on the shoulder or whatever and being like, talking in my face, doing things. It wasn't quite like that. It was more like, standard ass town. There's people standing around and you walk through it and you can talk to people if you want. But to its credit, those sort of conversations, not all of them were quests or anything. In fact, very few of them were quests or any kind of benefit to you. They were just there for flavor more than anything, and you could sort of progress through storylines with those characters, but they would just pop up through conversations you'd have every now and then. And it's like, that was quite nice for world building. If you're going to try and make this believable town, you kind of need some of that Mass Effect DNA, I suppose, to be like, this is just a nice conversation. So there's some of that there. And I actually thought the kind of plot line was quite good as well. The sort of,
oh, really?
Well, you don't really get a huge amount of it, but there's like the main plot line is about your sort of like tech guy misusing the manifold, as he calls it, and it turns out to be some kind of reality splitter, which splits him into 3 versions of himself, each with different personality traits of himself, and so that hilarity ensues.
Basically ripped off from Red Dwarf.
A little bit, yeah.
Someone likes Red Dwarf, by the way.
But then after a while, like, because he's not supposed to be in that state, his reality starts breaking down, and one of them starts getting a bit ill, and you then discover that what that looks like is a big pile of goop. So you're trying to sort him out, basically, and that's the plot line of the demo. And it's and once you've done that, you actually get the mission that they showed at last year's E3 to do, which ended in the bug fight they cut out from last time. And you walked in on me doing that, doing the end of that, and that was kind of okay. I mean, there is something to the ability, like, you're walking around doing a third-person shooter, and then you can suddenly jump and fly away and get out of trouble. There is something to that. It feels pretty nice, and it's relatively seamless. My only real knock against the flying is that, like, your like overheat limit seems relatively low. So it's like there are some like parts of missions where, like, I need to fly from A to B, but I can't get there but I can't get between these nav markers in one flight, so I've got to find somewhere to sit down and recharge and then go again. And then but you're always, like, the demo basically, I don't know if it forced you, but like by default you're always match made into a party of 4. So there's like a load of you flying to get somewhere, and it's like, well, yeah, but we can't all fly together because unless we all planned to stop on the same giant mushroom to recharge and then fly again, and it feels a little weird like that. It might be better when you're playing with people you know, but
so they made that whole system where you're meant to fly through the waterfalls to cool down.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not. They didn't design the level conveniently to do that.
No,
waterfalls aren't in helpful places. And they usually have like a fucking rock wall directly behind the waterfall. You have to fly like sideways through them.
There's some pretty big verticality in the world. Like, you do have to fly vertically up a rock face and to get to where you need to be, but you probably need to be relatively well charged before you attempt it.
Like, if they wanted to make that cooling system functional, surely they should have designed the levels better. Not necessarily waterfalls, even just like cold updrafts or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some stuff like that. Like, you can, if you fly low along a river, for instance, the spray that kicks up has a cooling effect.
And you can fly in water, right? You can just
when you're underwater, you get infinite cooling, so you can just keep going. And then I think the cooling effect stays with you for a while. So if you picked up cooling, for instance, it's a status effect that lasts for a little bit of time, and when you're not in a cooling zone, it will actually reduce the speed at which you heat.
Yeah.
So you can do things like that.
You would have thought that would have been like the primary goal of that level design, to make the paths that you're flying along like an actual track.
And maybe it was. Maybe I didn't spend enough time to find those paths, but it wasn't super obvious.
Yeah.
I'm also not 100% sure what you do in the world
apart from flying
outside of missions. because it calls it like freestyle mode or something like that, and you just drops you in the world and you can go around. And maybe this is a downfall of the demo or something, but there wasn't a whole lot to do. I found like one squad of guys that were in trouble, and it was just repeating. Basically, there'd be like a load of enemies would spawn, and you help them out, and then they'd go, "Oh, thanks, that was close." And then a whole load of enemies would spawn a few minutes later, and be like, "Oh, we need some help." "Oh, thanks, that was close." It just keeps going. I bet that's the same thing that happens in like Destiny and stuff like that, and it's that MMOE type event thing. But I wasn't sure, like, what else do I do here? What else is there? And I thought the mission design was actually quite good as well. Like it seemed varied enough. Like it wasn't just go here, kill thing all the time. There was like go here, solve a little puzzle, then going on. It's like some of a very, very light version of some of the ideas from raids, I suppose, seem to be in their general mission design. Where things did fall apart for me a little bit is the fact that it's like the missions play out more like a radio play in most cases, right? So, it's got that problem where because it's a multiplayer shooter, you're hearing most of the story happen over the radio between the things and the people involved. And I guess that's true of most games, but there were times where if one of the players in the party got ahead of you and went into a cave or something, you don't. The world's not seamless, so you load into the cave. You have a little pause and it loads into the cave. But if players get there before you and they load into the cave early, you might have, by the time you've loaded, you might have missed some of the radio play. So they were pretty sure, like I'd enter an area and the conversation was mid-flow, and it's like, hey, hang on a minute, did I miss something? And it's like, that's kind of bad. It's like surely you should have catered for that and like made sure all the players were in the zone before you carried on. Something like that. Like I don't know. Some little rough around the edges things. And I also have to say, like on my PC, I did encounter technical issues. It's a fairly decent looking game, have to be said, but like. And in the actual world and flying around, I didn't have any visual performance problems. What I did encounter is significant sound problems. It's like I think that I love the sound design, and like when it works, it sounds great. Like all the explosions and the guns that are all punchy but kind of sci-fi and a bit more pew, and things like that. They're not just like Battlefield, like real life, cool sounding explosions. They've got that little sci-fi edge to them, and it sounds really, really neat. But it's like it would glitch out in a way like old games used to when you didn't have enough sound channels. Like it's just like certain sounds would just stop playing, or like I'd be firing my gun in silence, but the odd bullet would make a noise, like as a sound channel freed up or something, to be like bang, which is so that was a bit of a bummer. The load times are pretty long as well. As you're going between areas, they seemed pretty extensive. And then there was some major stream loading issues when walking around town. I could walk into the main market instance and it just be like an empty floor with a few NPCs awkwardly hovering, and then all of the stores would load in some time later. And it seemed really inconsistent because obviously the moment I tried to show someone that it was doing that, I think it might have been you. And it's like it worked just fine.
Oh yeah, typical.
Yeah, curse of the demo. So I don't know. I'm not down on it. I'm just not. It just doesn't strike me as like being amazing.
Yeah, you're just.
It seems very well made, and I'm whelmed. Yeah, it seems well made, and I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with it. It seems competently done, but the stream loading issues were a little bit of a problem. Like menus wouldn't load fast, for instance, and things like that, which is kind of unforgivable. You're going to be in a menu a lot in some of those games. Loot-driven games, you need to be getting there, mucking around fairly frequently. That didn't work. The technical issue with the sound is a bit of a red flag for me, because it's like, I don't know, I kind of need that to be working all the time. I don't want to have to quit out of the game and reload it to get it working again with load times that long. It's like, so maybe the console version is the way to go, or maybe my PC's not right in some way. I don't know. I don't understand. But anyway, it was generally all right.
Okay.
No ill will towards it.
No ill will felt. Perspective from you there.
But this comes back to what I was saying earlier. It's like the hype around Anthem is so weird to me. It's like I'm just like, it's all right. I can see why people would be excited for it. I'm not 100% sure I get why people wouldn't be excited for it, like those that are like really down on it. But
well, they must be people who got overexcited for it.
Maybe, and then played it and were just like, it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's good to have more good games, diversity.
Yeah.
If you like a Destiny style, then it's good to have more options.
Yeah, and it's, at least it's not just on foot shooting. They have tried something different. So fair play to them.
Cool.
Yeah. So Anthem.
What else have you been playing, Rob?
I've been mainly playing. Well, I think before we get to that, I finished Red Dead.
Yay!
I finished the epilogue, and I've run out of side quests on my map. There's a couple of bounties I haven't done, but
yeah, but you're basically there.
Yeah, although I'm pretty sure some of the side quests I didn't see to their completion. I think there are some that you can't get to.
Yeah, I think after you finish the main
end
story.
Game.
Yeah,
which is a bit of a shame because one of them I was kind of into. It's just like because I got like just swept up in how the end, as I mentioned
story
last
was
time,
going,
in how the Arthur storyline plays out. And it's I don't know. Like this, I think some of my favorite stuff is in the epilogue.
I know.
Like,
but
it's just
maybe is that because of the tone though, and that it's a bit of a relief?
it's like most of it is feel good, right?
Yeah,
but it's really at least well made feel good stuff. Like,
yeah,
if it almost feels like there's more like in some spots, like there's like, oh, your quality seems to be right here,
right. Yeah,
although I will contradict myself by saying that I think those missions you get, the actual shooty shoot missions, are probably some of the worst in the game.
Yeah, there's some bad ones. Like when you get ambushed a couple of times, right? There's the one. Oh, really? Like climbing up the mountain or whatever.
Yeah, I really didn't get on with that because it's like, oh, let's have a cover-based shooter in a land with no cover.
Right.
It's just it didn't sit well with me at all.
Oh, I didn't have trouble because I just dead-eyed my way through that, like pretty much.
Right. Yeah, I did end up sort of going that way towards the end. It's like that. Yeah, like okay, make sure I had the tobacco. Let's do that again. There's one specific section with where you're coming over a crest of a hill and there's a cabin, and as you get close, people come out of basically all of the cabins.
Right.
And it's like the auto aim was like so intent on making me shoot this explosive thing.
Right.
Even when like the guys had run by the time I'd
moved away from it.
The guys had moved away from it, and it's like, no, I'm trying to shoot this guy, and it would just snap to the bloody explosive.
Yeah, that's annoying.
It's just really frustrating, and like to the point, so I'd just get gunned down there. That was the bit that like I had to repeat multiple times because I just get up there and I couldn't shoot who I wanted to shoot.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah, it's just it made the. I'm not even sure it was a really very weighty scene either. Like it's, and I'm conflicted about how it actually ends. Like it's definitely not Red Dead 1 in terms of cool factor.
No,
and it's I don't know. It's just a bit odd. Like there's a certain.
Well, it's got prequelitis because Dutch has got to be in the next game. Which
he's got to be alive, but like he almost didn't. Spoiler alert a little bit, I guess. It's like he didn't have to be in that sequence to some degree. It just makes you question where he's at more.
Yeah. And
his interaction with John is interesting, but just I feel like something's missing. I feel like there's some closure that's never addressed. There's things about it that just don't feel very final. And it's like, yeah, that's somewhat intentional because you're prequelitis, but also these guys have been through the ringer. It's like, wouldn't you ask more questions, and then wouldn't you answer more questions? And I don't know, it's weird. Yeah,
I didn't have trouble with that final sequence. I think with the music and everything, that was pretty epic. Yeah. Climbing up the snowy mountain awesome. And stuff. Yeah. I thought this is really cool, but I agree about the final thing. But at least there's a bit of good. Sort of, there's a slight twisty type thing there, or something that you wouldn't have quite expected happens, which is better than nothing, right? Which we won't say, but
no,
you know. And yeah,
I don't know. It was like, I expected something grander in some way, like, and it didn't land for me.
No, I mean the grand ending is the end of Red Dead, right? The original game, so it's kind of has to lead up to that. So it's like, yeah.
Which
so
is
did you enjoy?
Because that's kind of how I felt about the ending of the main story before the epilogue as well. It didn't totally land. It's like the concepts are there and the themes are there for sure. It's just there's something about that execution just doesn't make it hit home, I think, as hard as intended. Which is a shame for a game that's kind of hangs its drive almost entirely on its story and its narrative and really how it's all built up and structured. And it's like, when the key moment comes, it doesn't quite work for me.
Doesn't quite stick it. Yeah, I think
it's a bit of a shame. Yeah.
It's true. I agree, for sure.
I mean, but it does raise some serious, like, I'm pretty sure. Like, okay, so first Red Dead, when you're playing as Jack at the end of the game, or post game, whatever you want to call it, all the side missions are available for Jack, aren't they?
I don't.
Or is it a weird subset?
Think so. I can't remember if you even got side missions after that point, or if the only missions with Jack were the. I
mean, surely you had to mop up, right? Because it let you carry on playing.
Oh, it let you carry on playing, but I don't know if it had side missions or whether you just had the random events and the missions that Jack has. I don't know if like anything carried over and you could go. I think it's quite unlikely that they would have let Jack do John missions. In that game. Now, of course, they can handle that kind of workload, but yeah, I don't think so. I think it was quite short anyway. It was just a few missions where you're just tracking down the guy, right? Edgar Ross.
The Pinkerton, yeah. So I don't know, but like, boy, they put the work in this time.
This time they really did. Yeah.
Holy cow! Some of the interactions and what they will have had to have dealt with, and it's like just how much have they rewrote?
I don't know how they did that. It's ridiculous.
And I did hit what I think is a glitch though, where one of the side missions started to repeat from the beginning. One of the side mission chains, specifically the two guys on the run that you meet outside Rhodes.
Oh yeah. I remember them.
That whole thing started from the beginning again.
With John.
Okay. Wait, yeah. It's just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What's going on?
I mean, I can see there's scope for that to go horribly wrong. It's impressive that they managed to do it at all.
So I did end up also as there's a big bit of map in the southwest, shall we say.
Well, it's the original Red Dead map minus Mexico, right?
Yeah, of course, because we know where Blackwater is, and and it's like so you can go
there.
There's nothing to do.
There's nothing there. It's kind of
absolutely nothing. I'm so disappointed. Well, it's like because I kind of always knew that area was going to be there, and I thought it was going to come up in the story.
No, you know why it's there? It's there for Red Dead Online.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah,
and nostalgia, but there's nothing there. But I thought it was kind of clever how they made it like. Number one, completely undeveloped, right? So because it's earlier in history, but number two, like there's just a massive cholera outbreak, so everyone's dead, piled up in the street. Yeah,
that's kind of cool. That was at least the one. There was a decent sort of mini conversation you could have with a guy who's just burying cholera bodies.
Yeah, there's a guy outside the McFarlane Ranch explaining like where Bonnie McFarlane has gone and what's going on. Oh, really?
I didn't find anyone at the ranch. It was desolate when I went there.
Yeah, there's a reason for that's the reason they give is the cholera outbreak. Like she's gone traveling and like her parents have been killed by it or whatever. Huh. Anyway, yeah, I think it's cool that it's there. I did, of course, go galloping around there for nostalgia purposes.
I spent far too much time just looking for things and then being like really disappointed when there was nothing to do. And then I don't think I stumbled upon like it popped up with the legendary animal like indicator on.
Oh, there are some, I think.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, you've entered legendary animal territory, and I'm like, have I? Oh, and then it immediately said you've entered legendary enemies, but there's too much activity in the area. And I'm like, it's the middle of the night and there's nothing here.
Yeah.
What activity could you be talking about?
So I hope that they set some stories in that area. Because like we've been saying all along, I wanted that, like, you know, desert spaghetti western thing to come back in this game with all the awesome improvements and graphics and stuff, and it just didn't at all. Which is fine, because their whole concept for this game was clearly, what if we did a western but we go east? Yeah, but so at least that area of map is there for future exploitation, but it's clearly just there for nostalgia right now.
I guess it's one of those games and one of those stories that I think I find conceptually and more interesting and better in retrospect than I kind of did while I was playing it.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, if I look back at some of the moments of the game, or if I read things that are discussing moments of the game that have happened, and you sort of look at them and go, yeah, that was really cool, actually. But then I don't remember feeling that necessarily all the time whilst playing those sections.
Right.
It's weird. Like, the themes are there, the cleverness is there, the style is definitely there.
Yeah.
But it didn't... Like the ending point, like it didn't always come across for me, and I'm not really sure why at times.
I do know exactly what you mean. It's that point between the story and the open world gameplay. It doesn't quite come together, and it kind of never fully. I think it worked better in the original Red Dead when the scope was a bit smaller, even though that was a big scope game for the time, which isn't that long ago. It's like 9 years ago. Anyway. But yeah, I feel like that gulf is kind of widening a little bit. But you get that same effect in like playing Metal Gear or something, right? Where it's like the moment-to-moment stealth stuff is kind of cool, and then the story is ridiculous and insane, but they don't quite marry up. Like when you're doing the story stuff in the gameplay, that's where it kind of falls down when you have to fight like crazy, super soldiers with bees flying around them or whatever they were.
Yeah.
Do you remember that at that airport? It's like,
this
isn't the game, and that's where it all falls down.
The forced direct combat stuff.
Yeah,
didn't really work. Yeah,
but that's kind of it. Where that's a moment where they're trying to marry the gameplay, which is like you on your own in Afghanistan, basically, with some dudes in a base, up with the insane story. And it's like, there's been something's happened and your plane's crashed and now you have to deal with this situation. It's like, this isn't the game. At least in Red Dead, it's a little closer. But I feel like that effect still happens in Red. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I do get it. What was that old a dissonance of some kind?
Yeah, exactly.
Was it narrative dissonance? Was that the phrase that was like?
Well, the Ponzi phrase the Ponzi phrase is ludo narrative dissonance, right?
That's it.
Because ludo means game in Latin, right?
Yes. That's what I was reaching for.
Yeah,
you nailed it.
I mean, yeah, and that is something you don't get in like Zelda, right? So everything is coming together perfectly, but the story is so much more simple, right? But you feel those moments and you remember those moments because the gameplay worked perfectly in those moments. It combined really well. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think the interesting thing about, this does speak to the strength of those, those narrative elements, is that the moment that all that stuff kind of was stripped away, and I'm done.
Yeah,
effectively, it's like, oh, I've got no drive to play this anymore.
Keep playing. Yeah,
I don't want to go and do the hunts. I don't want to go do the legendary missions and things like that. Whilst the story was going, and whilst I was living in that world with the story, and like there was something sort of compelling about like taking time out to go try and do a hunt, or
exactly.
Like I didn't really engage with the fishing all that much, and now I'm feeling like, I really probably should have engaged with the fishing more.
Well, this is something I've always really liked about open world games, and one of the reasons it's one of my favorite genres, because you can stop playing the game without stopping playing the game. You can take a break without putting the controller down.
But the moment the story finishes, the moment I hit that credits, like for some reason the world stops for me.
Yeah.
it's slightly strange
because you are a character. You're not just you and faceless avatar. You are Arthur Morgan or whatever, and you have a story. And without that, there's no real reason to be in the world anymore.
Yeah, so I don't feel like I'm going to return to it for a while now that I've...
No, so my feeling is I'm going to... A lot of these good games that I've played over the past couple of years, I kind of want to play again. But with Red Dead, my plan is when it comes time, I will play up to the halfway point or something. Or I'll play up to the point where,
up to Guarma.
Yeah, just before that. I'll play up to just before that, and then I'll have, things in a decent state where I can go off and do hunting and everything.
Oh, right, I see what you mean. Yeah, because I have been I've been using quite a lot of save slots.
Right, because I didn't do that.
I probably do have a save around the sweet spot. So if I did return to it, for instance, I could go back and be at like the second camp and be
right. Yeah,
and have the side missions ahead of me and just dick around in the world from there.
That was always my problem that I had with like playing Fallout 4 or whatever, where I got to that state where I was like, my base is nice and I haven't progressed the story too far, so I can just go out and explore the world. But then I never finished the story because I just never got round to it because I was like, there's so much goddamn shit to explore.
Yeah. But that game is more that way. Like, that's actually probably the best way to play that game. It's probably better than actually trying to finish that story.
But I mean, I don't actually remember, but I assume in Fallout 4 they at least didn't do what Fallout 3 did originally, where you just die at the end, so you can't even continue. But they fixed that in Fallout 3 with that patch. That was hilarious.
Wait, they unpatched the ending?
Well, in Fallout 3 originally, when you go into the last thing where there's a bunch of radiation and you die, heroic sacrifice or whatever.
Okay.
That was just the end. Like you had to have a save file before that point, specifically for the purpose of reloading and going back into the world if you wanted to do that. But then in the patch with one of the DLCs, they fixed that so that you can do the ending and it counts as you doing it for like achievements or whatever, but then it just carries on. Even though technically you still die.
Right. They're just like, hey, by the way, put you back. No, I think quite a few games have done that where it's just like, you shouldn't be here, but it's a game. Yeah. So there you go.
Although Fallout 3, it had the whole thing where you like, there was a really easy solution to this problem. The guy who's completely immune to radiation and can totally walk in there and just do the thing that you would do, but not die. But the game doesn't let you do that.
Right. That wasn't a choice.
God, that was terrible. It was because that specific guy who's immune to radiation is the last follower that you get. So you will have got him just before you've gone into the whole end sequence of the game.
Right.
So he'll very likely be the person following you at that point. You'll walk up to this thing and it's like, oh, don't go in there, there's all this radiation, but you're going to have to because you're going to have to sacrifice yourself. And you just turn around and talk to the guy who's completely immune to radiation and be like, what are you doing? And he's like, no, I don't want to rob you of your glory. And it's like, that's just the worst, shittiest excuse ever.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
It's like they thought about it, but they didn't think about it. They thought about it enough to write a terrible line, but they didn't think about how completely terrible that was.
I bet they did. They were just like, whatever. How many people are going to play this far? Our stats say not many.
Yeah, I guess. In Fallout 3, it was slightly easier to just get... Well, in Fallout 3, it definitely had a more sort of lock you in kind of end area.
Right.
Once you started that chain of missions, it was kind of like you kind of didn't want to go off and break out. I guess that's the same thing we're talking about in Red Dead, kind of.
Yeah, there comes a point where you can't. Really.
You just kind of... Or you can, but you don't feel like you want to. You're just like, I want to see this to the end now that I've started this chain of events.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if during segments like Arthur's Last Ride, for instance, like whether you could peel off and do weird things. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't even know what happens at the end of Fallout 4. Well, I kind of do because I've read quite a lot of what happens at the end of Fallout 4 due to looking up places not to go when I'm exploring in Fallout 4. Because it's like, I don't know if this is a mission location. Oh wait, it is. And now I've read some of the story.
Oh, I did hear a story. Sorry, just to
get away from Fallout 4. Yes, good idea.
The final thing I want to say about Red Dead. last comedy thing. You know that thing I always said about the first Red Dead, where I would ruin that emotional moment in the song by stopping to pick up a flower.
Yep.
That totally happened to
someone.
I'm hearing reports of that happening. Like, you could, if you stop and go pick up a flower, some of the segments will just stop, and it's like, hooray!
Classic.
Oh, that's funny. Makes me happy anyway.
So then, Red Dead Redemption 2 recommended.
I mean, I really struggle with that question. It's like people have asked me about it when I've said I finished it, and it's like, oh, do you think it's worth it then? And I'm like, I don't know if I can answer that. It's like you have to. It's either going to connect with the story's either going to connect with you, and it doesn't. Right, yeah. And it's like I think we might be more critical of how that gunplay works than most people, arguably. But then I also have to follow that up with, it's like, okay, how much time are you legitimately going to be able to sink into this thing?
I think one thing I
people
heard
have just fallen off of it because it's just so long.
If you fall off, just before the end of the main story or close towards the end of the main story, then you miss out on the epilogue. Like, that's a bit of a shame because you've got all of the misery and you haven't got any of the the sunny bit. So I would definitely push through if you're actually towards the end of the Arthur story. But if you can't be bothered,
what are we talking, like from chapter 5 onwards?
Yeah, sure.
Just say keep going.
But if you've only got to like chapter 3 and you're like, oh, I can't be bothered to go any further, then fine.
Well, so I don't know how many people actually. It'd be an interesting stat actually. How many people have actually got as far as that? Like,
so whether are there achievements for the chapters? Because then you can look it up.
There are actually. You could probably have a look. Yeah,
I think a lot of people have not got very far at all.
But, I mean that's what usually happens. Actually, just in games in general, it's one of those things. Like the drop off rate for most games is pretty high, but. Well, because people just log in and go, "Oh, I'll have a quick go," and it counts as you haven't played it, and
it's fairly ridiculous. Every time you look at those stats, when you look at achievement stats like that, it's like 20% of the people got like one achievement.
Yeah, it's like, wow. And it's usually like the one you get in the first 5 minutes or something. They'd be like, "Welcome to the game."
And then the achievement for completing the story on normal mode is like marked rare or like ultra rare.
Well, in fairness, I think the way the PlayStation especially like marks those is like things become rare pretty easily.
Easily, yeah.
Like the percentage doesn't have to be that low for it to be. I think it's like less than half and it treats it as rare. And it's like, that's not rare.
It's not rare. How rare.
How rare.
Yeah.
The only advantage of that is when you can look at the list and see the achievements that are super low percentage that you got, where you've got like a 0.01% achievement because most people don't even bother.
Those are pretty few. I mean, I've got a tiny portion of the achievements in Red Dead. I know a large chunk of them have been set aside for Red Dead Online, which is annoying. Yeah. Because PlayStation has a system where like the achievements or the trophies can be segregated by updates. And they didn't do that with this. They put all the Red Dead Online ones just in the base Red Dead pile. And it's like they could have, like when Red Dead Online launched, they could have just split it out into its own little segment.
Yeah.
That would have made me happier. Because they do a good job with that. Like most DLC packs, they will separate it out and be like, oh, you got 100% in the main game, but you got 0 in the DLC. And it's like, well, that makes sense. Like that feels fine. We'll go have a look at that. I did take one nice screenshot, especially at the end, because there's just a bit. It sets you up for it. Actually, the game just sort of like leaves you in a nice pose, and it's like, "Oh, this is very pretty." Screenshot.
Yeah.
So I've moved on to God of War.
Oh, how's God of War going?
I mean, I'm quite rightfully so. I'm still loving it right now. It's like pretty much every interaction between Atreus and they never say his name, do they? Kratos.
Yeah, they don't.
I don't think they've ever said his name so far in this. Every single one of those has always been interesting. It's like I'm looking forward to the next one. It's like even I thought it's like it's there's more comedy there than I'd sometimes than I'd wonder if they intend, because sometimes it's just funny. the interactions like boy, always ends in boy, and it's like
Boy.
Or Kratos will say something and be like, and they're like, that's funny. It's like, well, why is that funny? It's like, oh, you were being serious. I am always serious.
Yep.
And Kratos' voice never gets old.
No,
I know it's
really
good.
well
I think I'm still having the minor gripes you described earlier. Well, not really a gripe, but in that I still don't feel very proficient at the combat.
Yeah, I feel like its tutorializing isn't quite quite. Mate, I usually, it's delicate balance between being handholdy and being like, and not giving you enough time to get used to things. And I felt like this one was a little bit, light on the. It would tell you things once, and then I think actually I found the move list reference in Spider-Man easier and to use than the God of War.
Yeah, because in God of War you have to go to the skills tree and be like, okay, which one of these icons was the thing that did the thing?
Yeah,
and then you've got all the upgrades and runics and something that change it all out, and they're pickups, aren't they? So you've got to go through your inventory to look at the little. Okay, which of these little videos is the one I'm interested in?
Yeah,
and then you've got skills on top of the skills sometimes or talismans that react to certain skills, and it's like okay, but it describes them with like the move name. Like Executioner's Cleave, and you're like, okay, which one of the moves was that?
Yeah, it's really quite deep and complicated considering.
I mean, yeah, I'm getting to the point now where you're doing some of the Atreus combos. Like, he's helping out a lot more than he was at the start of the game, and it's like, oh, okay, right. I know. So if I skill up in this particular way, he's going to get more involved with that, and it might put them in a decent state to combo some hits and some hovers on them, and it's like, oh, okay, got you. This is kind of neat. But when it's, I find like most fights are either like I'm getting completely owned and just getting absolutely stomped, or I'm doing it without taking a hit. There's no middle ground. Like,
yeah. Do you ever get to the state where you're like, because I always forget that going to the Spartan Rage mode actually gives you health when you fight.
Oh yeah, no, I'm using it as like a last resort.
That's
like
useful.
Like if I'm about to die, it's just like, I'll just pop it. And then
so for me, there was a specific fight that really where for me it was a big spike, and I was wondering if it happened to you. It's relatively early, so I'm sure it's like you go to the other realm, the one with the dark elves, Alfheim, and you go down a lift, and at the bottom of that lift, you fight a whole bunch of dark elves. I think for the first time, and that one there was just a lot of them, and I really struggled with that one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I do, but yeah,
like
when
a
you're
horseshoe sort of area,
yeah. But that wasn't such a big deal for me actually. That one was okay. I struggled with the Stone Ancient for a while. Who's not that much further. I found some of his attacks a little bit tricky, and it's like, oh right, then the game eventually tells you, and it's like, yeah, don't attack him directly. Like use the things that I didn't see, right? Because they were tiny. The things and it's like, there's things to throw back at him, and it's like, oh right, I didn't even see those before. I struggled with that one for a while, and there was some of the bigger. Oh no, the Revenants I have a hard time fighting.
Yeah.
I just haven't got the tactic. I'm sure there must be one, and it must be stun focused.
Yeah, I always
at the moment I just arrow them. Yeah.
Spam Atreus, spam arrows and run up to them. That's my tactic. And I upgraded the kind of run and attack thing. Yeah. So that works quite well.
I mean, and it is super frustrating when you come across. It doesn't seem to be much of a middle ground in terms of enemy strength either. Like you'll just like half the time be like, yeah, I'm doing fine. I can deal with these yellow guys. Oh, there's a purple. No, I'm boned.
Purple's just screw you. Yeah. But purple is meant to be an indicator that you shouldn't be fighting that.
Yeah, come back
enemy
later.
Yeah.
But it's like I went all the way to. I thought I got some of the dwarven side quests, the favors. Popped up, and it's like, well, let's go deal with these. Let's go have a look at one of these. So I started going down the route of Fafnir's storeroom.
Sure, yeah,
and found the first fight pretty tricky. Like they were higher level than me, but they were not impossible.
Sure.
But then had that thing where I was just getting either owned immediately, and then the time I actually did it, I didn't take a single hit, and it was just like, oh, okay, there's clearly no.
Well, that just shows it's definitely a skill thing, isn't it? Or
yeah, absolutely.
You just need enough practice. That's why I was hoping, like when I was playing it, like I was saying, I just need a practice room of some kind.
I would love that. And then the very next room just had a purple guy in it, and it's like, okay, great. After a few attempts, I did manage to whittle him down to half health, and then he just health restored his entire bar, and it's like, well, clearly I can't kill him fast enough to actually do this segment yet, so I'm gonna have to abandon that whole thing and come back to it later. And it's like, it's a bit frustrating because it takes a while to get places.
Yeah, it does at first. I mean, I think there might. I think
there's some fast travel doors about. But, like I don't know if I've unlocked the ability to go 2 doors from the door. Like I get back to the center easily enough.
Right, I think that is unlocked at some point. The way you can go from door to door or whatever.
Yeah, because it's going to be needed. Because at the moment, I'm just any side quest I do is just overpowered at the moment, and it's like I can't do that. And it's I think you described the same thing when you were going through it. And it's like, all right, no, I can't do this side thing yet because it's just a bit too. And it's like, no, yeah, fine, but you've made this intricate world that I kind of want to explore every nook and cranny of, because the puzzly elements are pretty satisfying.
Like I noticed it when I was watching you play at first at Christmas, where it was like the amount of things that you walk past where I had to say, I mean, you have to just infer it, but it's like, no, you can't do that yet. No, you can't do that. It's Metroid, but it's like...
but none of it's ever explained. It's like there are certain things you go, that looks interactable, and you're like, yeah, no, I can't do that yet. And it's like, no, I've just stumbled. I'm in the middle of the mountain, so I've done the Black Breath or whatever. Like I've walked through the Black Breath and I'm going up there. I'm in the mine at the moment, but there's clearly a route I've missed because I've gone round the long way round, and I've like freed the cart or whatever that you're supposed to free.
I remember that bit, yeah.
And it's like, but I haven't actually figured out how to free the rope that Atreus messes up. So it's like, where do I go? It's like, I can't find it. It's like, there's clearly another route here somewhere, but I'd like, so I'm a bit stuck there, but I've discovered that something else that I definitely can't interact with yet. Like there's the red sap stuff.
Yep.
And it's just like, that's clearly a thing, but I'm gonna have to come back and do all that.
Yeah, I imagine you get something unlocked when you get to the top of the mountain. I can't remember. I mean, you definitely meet a cool character and stuff. But probably one of those things gets unlocked at some point soon.
Mm. But yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it. There's a weird thing I keep coming off the back of playing Red Dead and then having some of the scenes play out a little bit stiffly, like when the witch is taking you to Alfheim for the first time, and you're like just walking around and riding down that lift, for instance, and everyone's just sort of standing there.
Yeah, like back to video games.
Yeah,
like
a little bit.
This weird world of Red Dead where everything has had too much money
it's hyper animated in every possible way. Actually, going back to like a very good like regular budget video game, exactly. I suppose, is weirdly jarring.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm having a great time. I think it's excellent. I'm still big on it, and I think it's like it's weird. It was weird coming back to it after taking quite a lot of time off from it to finish Red Dead.
Of course, yeah.
So that I think that was a bit of hard work as well, getting back into the flow. But I think I'm getting to the point where I'm now unlocking enough stuff that there's that like you said earlier, the depth of the combat is starting to play its hand. It's starting to come in.
I mean, if you're going up,
I just need to get good.
You're still really early on, so it's time to get good. Yeah, exactly.
I'm still that's why I'm interested in. Like it feels like I'm early on, but then I realize I'm like 8 to 10 hours into this thing.
It's not short. It's not Red Dead, but it's
no.
When it came out, people were like, "Wow, this is like a chunky game."
Yeah, that's what I'm finding really interesting, and I just didn't expect there to be this much to it, and that the pace is a lot slower than I was expecting, and but it's in a good way. Like it's I don't think it's playing it too slow. That's me, really. That's my couple weeks.
Cool. So, Zeg, what have you been playing? Have you been playing our joint game of the year last year?
Naturally. Yes. I did, well, not as much, but I did continue to play Smash Bros. Piranha Plant came out.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that yet.
Piranha Plant seems cool.
Weird, but cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bound to be weird, but even for it being weird, it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those characters that has, like, controls that are just slightly unusual.
Yeah, it feels very...
Because you have to do slightly different things than you normally would expect.
Some of the moves require an extra input, which is unusual.
Yeah. And, like, it has a charge move on its side B instead of its neutral B, which is where charge moves usually go.
Yeah. He's remixed from the norm, for sure. But that's great. Like, it's like adding more of these... I suppose in some respects it's like yeah, okay, he's not quite so pick up and play as the other characters.
No.
And they are leaning more, some of the newer characters they've introduced have definitely been leaning more that way.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you could argue Incineroar's a bit more involved, but he has some of his moves are weirder, right?
Yeah,
like,
some of them, but not like too many.
But not too many. And it's like and Ryu's clearly odd.
Well, yeah, but that's just a Street Fighter references.
Yeah.
It's like Bayonetta is also
has some tricks.
Has her tricks, but that's because of it being Bayonetta.
And even Inkling's that little bit tricky.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But yeah, in this case they've gone a little bit further with it, and it's good to see. Like it does add some much needed variety. Like for a game with that many characters, it's like it feels like
it feels like a regular character and not like just a shitty character they shitted out.
Yeah,
which is what everyone thought it would be at the start.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not just another Fire Emblem copy.
Well, we'll see about that. We've still got 4 more characters we don't know.
Yeah, 4 more unannounced characters. But I hope Joker isn't.
Yeah, you hope that they're going to do something pretty interesting with him.
Because I've got to be honest, like I hadn't played Cloud up until this one, and it's like playing. I've tried to put some time in with Cloud, and it's because I was using it for World of Light for a bit.
Sure.
And it's like I'm kind of disappointingly bland character.
Yeah, he's like not unusual.
Yeah.
The only thing is the limit system, and that's not actually
not
that
really that
complicated.
interesting. Yeah. So yeah, it's nice that Piranha Plant is very different.
Yes. And I finished all the challenges, so there's that. Got that out of the way.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Well, I say finished, but I still used the hammers to break all the online stuff because I was just like, I'm never going to grind this fucking online thing. It's just too much. But luckily, I got sufficient hammers to do that for the ones I hadn't already got in online anyway. But yeah, I went through all the rest of them. And I thought, the ones I was worried about were those level 9 CPU things. But it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was. And a couple of them were like I'd kind of misread, or well, not really misread, but sort of misunderstood or not realized what it... Because like the one where it's like, beat a level 9 CPU by 3 points, I forgot that because you get negative points when you die, you only really have to kill them twice to beat them by 3. Because you get +2 and they get -2.
Negative. Oh, of course. Right, yeah.
So I was like, that's not actually... I mean, it's still 2 out of 3, but it's not as difficult.
I thought that would talk about stock points.
No, that one specifically is points, not stocks.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't that bad. I used Lucas to do most of those level 9 CPU fights because it turns out CPUs are not good at avoiding PK freeze. And it just chucks them sideways so far that you can just gank people's recovery real easily by just timing the freeze on while they're recovering back to the stage.
Interesting.
I don't know why that's such a good tactic. So yeah, use Lucas, I guess.
Okay, I might give that a go.
So there was that. I got through that. I haven't got all the spirits yet because I'm still going through classics mode. I'm still I think I'm 2/3 of the way through the character list now. So I'm getting there. Out of the ridiculous number of characters to get all the fighter spirits. Although disappointingly, it doesn't seem to care about completing anything. I was expecting there to be a pop-up for
right, yeah.
Well, because it tracks.
You've got all the challenges.
Yeah, yeah. You've got all the. It doesn't have one for you've got all the challenges or all the music.
I feel like they dropped that ball in Wii U as well. There were certain you did all the things messages that just they didn't care about. Whereas the previous entries had been very much, like, okay, we're not going to give you anything for it, but you did all the things.
Yeah. I mean, it still has, like, you got all the characters, obviously, because that's the important one, I suppose. But,
Yeah.
But, like, I was kind of disappointed. Mainly because there was pop-ups for, like, getting some of the things. Like, there's one for, like, 800 music tracks, but not all of the music tracks. And there's one for, like, 100 challenges, but not all of the challenges.
I wonder if that's because it's a little, for players that bought into the season pass or something, the music might be somewhat there.
Well, I don't know if that will count.
Yeah. I don't know. It depends if they're like going to give you some music with the DLC, but then give you some more that you can buy. Like more just turns up in the store.
Well, I don't know about that. I hope they don't do that anyway.
I don't mind either way, to be honest.
I'd rather if you're going to buy the DLC, just give you all the stuff that comes with the DLC.
I guess. But...
So yeah.
Was Port Town any of that music?
No.
Ah!
Disappoint.
Mistake.
Yep. Turns out our hopes were unfounded.
Ah.
That one specific track wasn't there.
How do you cock up that bad? Well, that obviously.
Yes, that obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's mostly Smash Brothers. I'm nearly done. Like I say, nearly. That's still a whole another 20 characters to get through or whatever in classic mode. And I'm getting to the ones that I'm less familiar with because they're newer. I'm dreading having to go through the whole classic mode with Ryu and Ken because I'm stuck. I can't do their special thing, but apart from the easy ones, I can do like it's just like actual Street Fighter. I can do the easy.
You can do the
stick
fireball
maneuvers, not the complicated ones.
But you can't do the Dragon Punch.
Yeah,
reliably.
Basically.
Yeah, the Dragon Punch takes. Oh, it's a lot more. What's the word I'm looking for? It's lenient in this than it is in real Street Fighter.
Yes, you can basically input the stick command quite a long time before you actually hit the actual Smash Brothers command.
Yeah, it's not, and it doesn't need to be nearly as lightning fast as it. But the actual stick action doesn't have to be nearly as quick.
But in some ways, that almost makes it more awkward because it
might get confused. You mean? And
well, no, it's like it makes you think about it for too long. Is what I'd say. Because you want to get out a move, but you're having to think so far ahead because it's not because you have to think so far ahead, but it's because you can. Because that's putting the command in has quite a large window. You're trying to think ahead of that move so far if you're not good enough to do it quicker. That it makes you not think about what you're currently doing as much.
Right. I get it. Yeah, it's a little. It's a skill you probably haven't needed in Smash.
Yeah.
Whereas it's something I guess a fighting game player would be well accustomed to.
Although I think in some ways it might actually be quite difficult for people because it's lenient to do, but it's also you can't do it quickly. I find if you do try and do it too fast, it just doesn't work that way either.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Or maybe I'm just not actually inputting all the full command
maybe
quickly.
When you're going too fast, you get a little inaccurate.
Yeah.
Which is my problem with doing fast fighting game inputs.
So there's that. I got to get through the rest of those characters. And I probably will eventually.
You played a lot of that game.
Yep.
I still haven't finished World of Light. I'm plugging at it, but I'm not playing it as much as I was over Kimbo.
I really want you to play more of that. I'm not that we need to talk about the spoilers or anything, but it'd be nice if you had finished it.
I took down all the barriers and you can go to the area in the top left now. I haven't taken down all the barriers around. What's it? Ooh, hit the mic with my elbow. The floaty Gamil or whatever it's called.
Gleam.
Galeem.
Yes. Gleam. I mean, obviously that.
Gleam, the PlayStation name of it.
Yeah, you fight the PlayStation.
That would be so funny, actually, if the last boss to Smash Brothers was like, screw you, Sony.
Submit that to Game Theory. Their theory is wrong. It's actually all about fighting Sony. So yes, there's that. Obviously I played Rocket League some, and I've just recently gone back to Factorio again, but not into the save that I should have gone into. It was annoying because I was like, I want to finish that fucking C-Block game, but it's just I just have to summon the effort to get back into that specific file. But then I just ended up like making new. Well, what I ended up really doing was like looking at the other major mods and being like, how have these changed recently? Because I haven't played most of these for quite a while. See what was up with them. And some of them are quite different. Some of them are the same. But just.
I don't know if I should be happy or depressed by the fact that you might have actually convinced Kippers to play this thing.
I don't think I convinced him. He seemed quite interested before I even talked to him about it, which was weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
For Kippers. But yeah. We talked about it, and I like streamed I showed him some of my saves. Be like, here's some bases in various states of progress. And then at the end of that, he was like, okay, I might get into that, but I've got the first Yakuza 0. And I was like, yes, you probably should.
Yeah.
Finish that game first. Don't jump into something completely different.
Is he playing 0 or Kiwami?
I don't know.
I forget. Yeah.
I forget too. So there's that. I looked at these other. Also, I was kind of hoping to like maybe get a multiplayer game going again in one of those other mods, but conveniently, a different game came out that I could play in multiplayer with the person that I play stuff with. Astrothem came out of early access.
Out of early access. Okay.
Although, to be honest, it seems like they probably maybe rushed it a bit.
It still needs to cook.
Yeah, maybe just a bit. Because the thing is, it was like back in November or sometime around then, they were saying like, we would have liked to release 1.0 on like the anniversary, which would have been the second anniversary, I think, of when it launched in early access.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we would have liked to launch it in December for the anniversary, but we're not going to make that, so we're going to say we're going to release it in February. And they made a specific date. It wasn't even just vague. It was like, this date in February is going to be the release. But apparently they didn't really make it in time by the looks of it. It's like, it feels like it probably could have used a little bit longer.
So what's still out with it? What's still off?
Well, it's just bugs mainly. But like, and sort of weirdly recurring bugs. The primary ones are with the vehicles. Somehow they've sort of regained the bug where the vehicles will occasionally just chuck you into space.
Nice.
which was a bug that had been around for a while, but seemed to have got fixed and now is back.
It's just like a classic, like, I don't know, polygons overlapping, don't know how to deal with it. Pit.
It just pings you up. Mainly when you're getting in and out. Because the thing is, again, this is one of those things where you fix a bug by not really fixing the bug, where they just made it so when you get out of a vehicle, you just spawn like 10 feet in the air.
Oh, right, I see.
Which is kind of the lazy solution. But
are they vehicles you design?
Not really.
Oh, okay. So it's not likely that you'll have designed a vehicle where you'll just spawn into it then.
There are ways to make it fucked up, like if you put the seat deliberately facing in a weird direction on one of the vehicles that you attach seats to, rather than it having a default seat. Like you can make it so the driver's seat faces the floor, which is
okay.
Not very helpful in real life, but it doesn't matter when you're playing in third person.
That's pretty funny.
But yeah, so the vehicles will occasionally ping you into space still. And there's a slightly more weird bug with the vehicles where they just occasionally stop working for no apparent reason. Like, you can get in them, but then the controls just don't work. And you just have to, like, jump in and out a few times until it mysteriously decides to start working again. Don't know what's up with that one. And then, there's a few other things that are sort of just generally glitchy. There's something that me and the people we've been playing with seem like generally in agreement. It feels like might be like a floating point error with like coordinate systems, because it's more noticeable on the small planets is the first thing that seems to suggest it might be something rounding error going wrong. But like, especially on the small planets, you can feel like when you're running along, it's like you hitch and like jiggle up and down slightly in certain locations. Like near one of the places we landed on the first planet, you could almost feel there was this line, an invisible line across the middle of our landing zone where it's like you walk across it and you just like you can feel it glitching. And I have had that occasionally ping me into space as well.
Great.
At least in that case, it's just like you just fall straight down and then at least you die right where you were, so you know where your stuff is. But yeah, apart from the glitches, it's generally much more polished than it was the last time I played it. Like all the menus and stuff have been tidied up and made more consistent.
Okay, so still more polished, but they missed a spot.
Yeah,
they ran out of varnish halfway through.
Maybe. And the new stuff that has actually been added in this period between the last early access release and the 1.0 is actually kind of interesting. The first thing that I like, obviously, is that they've updated the terrain generation, so it's just better. Which is always my problem with procedurally generated games.
Sure, yeah.
Procedurally generated terrain usually sucks, and this is slightly better than average, although the caves still suck, kind of. The random tunneling effect of caves. But that, I don't think there's really any real way to ever solve that problem. It's been a problem since Minecraft. But yeah, the surface terrain is just generally nicer and has better, more defined biomes and stuff where it's here's the forested area and here's the mountains. It's not just based on a height map or whatever. So that's nice. And then there is the, I guess, story mission. It's not really explicit. It's more like an exploration thing. But when you start exploring around, you're well, what's that glowing pillar of light in the distance? And you go over there, it's like a mysterious alien building. And you're oh, it's got power sockets. So what happens if we plug it in? And then it powers up, and then it turns on a little mysterious floating orb, and you can look into the orb, and it shows you this sort of map of the planet with 6 of these structures on the outside, and then 1 in the middle. And it's oh shit.
There's something to do.
Yeah, we've got a goal. Power up all these buildings, and then something will happen, maybe. And that each of the individual planets seems to have its own set of these buildings.
Interesting. But you've got to get to them, surely. Is that are they far away enough that they're actually a problem to reach? I
mean, the planets aren't that big, and you can also just launch the shuttle into orbit and then land on the same planet, just in a different place. So you can build outposts that way, rather than transferring between planets, which is slightly more complicated. But yeah. It does seem like there's some amount of a story / goal, even if it's not really a story. But who knows what will actually happen. And if you want more reasons to do specific things, there's achievements. So there's at least a progression from that side. Where you're there's an achievement for digging down into the mantle, and then an achievement for getting into the center of the planet, which may or may not be through those mysterious alien structures. With that mysterious thing in the middle. Either it's going to turn on some kind of teleporter and just shove you into the middle, or you do have to dig to the middle to turn on that one in the middle.
Yeah. Which I'm kind of hoping is that.
We were trying to dig to the middle of the planet, but it was I was momentarily confused because the planets are quite small, and I guess I should have thought of this. I started digging down at a 45-degree angle because I was making a ramp so we could drive the cars down it. So I was digging down, and then after a while I realized, hang on, I'm digging up. Because I continued on the same line, but I dug, through the whole planet, essentially. But, not through the middle, because I was started at a 45-degree angle. So, the gravity had shifted, and I came upwards into a cave, and I was oh, yeah, I guess that would make sense. So then I was okay, I guess I just have to find where I got to the lowest point where the gravity had become flat on what used to be a 45-degree slope, and then start another slope off that one and just keep going down that way. Eventually try and get to the middle, maybe. I mean, you could just go straight down, I guess. Though you wouldn't really be able to get out very easily. That's why I was doing it with the slopes. So we'll see how I haven't got to the depth for that mantle achievement to spawn yet. Although I guess we're doing it on the starter planet, which is one of the larger ones, not one of the smaller ones. Might be easier to get that on one of the small planets. But who knows what will happen? Who knows how weird gravity will get once you start getting that far down? Because the radiuses of these planets aren't very big, so you'll be able to actually walk not a very long distance and have the direction of gravity completely change.
Yeah. I was wondering, does gravity get stronger in the middle or weaker?
No, it gets weaker because there's more mass above you, which is pulling you in the other direction. I don't think it does in the game, though. In fact, I'm not sure the small planets even have lower gravity. It seemed like I was jumping the same height. Blame that on the exosuits. You just automatically have... The exosuits controls the strength to make it seem like the same gravity no matter where you are.
Jumping. They've got little boosters.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and apart from that, it's not the general progression hasn't changed that much. They slightly changed the minerals and whatnot, and there's a second tier of materials that are combined. So you need to get the chemistry lab and start combining the base materials into the more complicated ones. But it's not really that different. You're still just wandering around, scooping up the mineral patches, and then flying to other planets for the minerals that you don't have on the starter planet. So we'll see how long that continues to be interesting. See what happens. I'm not sure what we're going to do about turning on the things, because it'd probably be quicker and easier to do one of the small planets, but we've already done one of the ones on the first planet, and it seems like the alien structures on the small planets require more power to power up, which is probably a balance thing, I guess, because it seems like there's probably less of the structures, but they require more effort. So I don't know. We might just dig a hole to the middle of the planet first and see what happens before we start having to turn on all these other places. And also, generally, we need to get further up the tech tree, get the bigger shuttles because they have bigger storage, which will let you store more of the equipment you'll need to build these outposts and do the powering thing. So yeah, that's been fairly interesting. But yeah, probably needs at least one more patch. They did already patch it once after release, a very quick patch. But the vehicle problems were only in the known issues category, not the fixed category.
Right.
It's like they know about them, but still need to get that patched up.
Sounds like a more inherent problem with their physics engine, doesn't it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. I guess it's just one of those problems with procedurally generated, like, voxel terrain or whatever. It's always going to be kind of inherently unstable. With loading and streaming and LODs switching in and out and weird stuff. Yeah. The classic problem Space Engineers had with its voxel asteroids. Haven't been into Space Engineers for quite a while. Mainly because I haven't had it installed, so it hasn't been telling me every Thursday that there's a patch.
Right. Yeah.
And not seeing it has made it easier to forget about. Apparently they're doing some fairly major patches to their survival mode, which is kind of the bit that's more interesting to me, because I'm not interested in creative mode really in Space Engineers. But survival mode is still too much of a hassle.
That's still early access, isn't it?
Technically, yes. If it ever actually comes out.
But that's the one that got console releases.
Yeah, that did get a console release.
Okay.
Which may or may not have been some kind of console early access, but not really said so at the time.
I mean, yeah, it could be preview on Xbox at least.
It was in the early days of the idea of there being early access on consoles. So I'm not sure it counted in that system. It might just have been a weird early version that they just released.
Weird. Fortnite is apparently still early access.
Well, I mean, the other part of Fortnite is, right? The zombie-based defense
I
game.
thought the whole thing was still like...
Well, that's what I mean. If one part of it is still early access, they probably just count the whole thing.
Weird.
Apart from that, I don't think there's really anything else that I played. Kept thinking about playing stuff again. That was one of those times.
Shouldn't think you should do.
Yeah, I guess. There's also been another Steam sale, so I've been looking at my wish list again to see if anything has got lower price than it was at Christmas.
I know. It's one of those things. I just have to remind myself: don't buy games. You've got a backlog.
Right.
So I've got 2 Call of Duty games to play.
Jesus.
Like I've got Fallout 4 sat behind me that I've actually been quite tempted to start.
Yep.
For the first time ever.
Really, the only thing I was looking
coming
at
off Red Dead, it's time for Fallout 4.
Fallout 4.
Even more open world.
Super long.
Now's the time of the year for me, though I normally go hitting some of the games I've never.
Well, it's because nothing is coming out.
Yeah,
I guess.
It starts to become for games I'm interested in. It starts to become relatively quiet season.
Yeah. The only real reason I was looking at the sale was to see if Valkyria Chronicles had gone down more. Even though it's like 50% off, and that game only came out like the very end of last year anyway.
Yeah, it's still pricey though, isn't it?
It was still a full price game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I've still got things that I did buy in the Christmas sale that I haven't played.
Right.
Like Dead Cells. I never got around to that.
Man, I'm so bummed. Like there was a hot sale at Tesco's, of all places, where you could have picked up a copy of Soul Calibur 6 for PlayStation or Xbox for $10.
Wow.
And I jumped on it, but they'd run out by the time I got there.
And you didn't like go to some other Tesco's or anything?
I don't know. There aren't any other big Tesco's. I could have gone to the one in Bury, I suppose, but it's a bit out of the way.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. But I want the version with the DLC anyway because I get Tira and 2B.
Yeah, I guess you want that one character.
And they've announced they have announced their next character in it, and it's a character in Soul Calibur 5 that wasn't in 6. So that's a little less interesting. But it's but yeah, I kind of want that fighter pass. It's like CD keys seems to be the route you can get, but it's still relatively expensive there, for the game and the deluxe version of the game at least. It still feels full price. And it's fighting games, they keep their value at the moment.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, the Fighters is half price at the moment on Steam, and I was a little bit tempted to be like, is that one of these Marvel vs. Capcom games that Zach and I could mess around with? Oh, I think I might have a copy of Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 now on Xbox because it was on Games with Gold.
Okay.
So we can go back into that and mess around.
So
we can play as Phoenix Wright finally.
Oh, yeah, because it will have the full
It's
set.
the Ultimate version,
Right.
yeah.
But not the backwards compatibility.
No, unfortunately. I won't be able to use my fight stick because it's on Xbone.
Yeah.
Which is annoying. Someone should really just make a fight stick that works everywhere.
You'd think it would be that
universal
difficult
fight stick.
with direct input.
Yeah.
But apparently it is.
Yeah.
I think that was everything. I don't remember. I feel like there should have been one more thing, but there probably wasn't. It hasn't been a very game-filled time.
Cool. I'm still playing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's still good. I don't really have anything to say this week, particularly about it. I'm just plowing through the middle of it, I suppose. I had to fly to Krakow this week, so I didn't have so much time to play.
What?
Poland.
Well,
I had to go to Poland
Oh.
for work, briefly.
I thought you said you were fighting Krakow, and it's just what?
Fly to Krakow.
Yeah, that's what I misheard. Just I'm just going there. I'm just going to take on Poland all by myself.
No, I'm sure they'd beat the crap out of me.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
There's a lot of
it's good. Refer to my previous comments. It's really fun and a bit lighter than the previous games I've been playing, but definitely still up there in terms of quality and fun.
Yeah, I suppose while you're playing it, I should spit up the DLC.
That's a good point. Yeah,
and refresh myself.
Yeah. That's kind of it, I think, potentially for this podcast. Oh, are we on time? Just about.
Vaguely, yeah.
Tiny bit
I
early.
think we're always vaguely on time.
Cool.
Hey, it's been 2 weeks since my last onrush. I might be free.
Have we got any videos coming up? Well, there's the last episode of Half-Life.
The last of the Half-Life. That's all we've got in the docket right now.
So look forward to the is that actually, did you fit Zen into one episode? How long is
Surprisingly, we did, yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't as long as I remembered. That was one of the bits that was shorter than I remembered rather than longer than I
Yeah, you figured because there was a couple of bosses that you might have to, it took a while to get to each. But
it's I remembered the factory being a lot longer than it was as well.
Yeah. I can't remember Zen very well, so I'm looking forward to watching
that. I remembered basically nothing. This was interesting.
Yeah, so, watch out for that, listeners, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
It does mean we'll terrify you with a new series, though, soon.
Oh, yeah.
We've got ideas, man.
You got plans? Okay.
We've got plans, yeah.
Can't wait to see how ridiculous it is.
Oh, it'll be entirely expected.
Yeah. Not actually surprising in the slightest.
Yeah,
okay.
I think we've talked about it before.
Cool. Well, look forward to that too. And we'll return for another podcast in a couple of weeks.
Podcast.
Bye for now. Bye.